Good morning. I'd like to call to order the Thursday, November 10, 2022 Planning Commission meeting for Queen Anne's County. We're holding our meeting this morning at 107 North Liberty Street in the County Commissioners hearing room. Let's start the meeting, please, by reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Are there any public comments that are outside of each individual project that anyone would like to make at this time? Yeah, if you don't mind holding those public comments for that specific portion of the day, that's great. This is just a time for anybody who has anything outstanding they'd like to say if they have to get on about their day. Seeing none, we'll move into meeting minutes and review.
Motion to accept.
Second.
Motion to accept and a second. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Passed. Thank you much. I see no extension requests, updates, legal matters, and legislation. Counselor? No. No, thank you. Miscellaneous staff items.
Hey, Tom, you want to acknowledge that we have a couple people remotely participating?
I'm happy to do so. Meaning the commissioners?
Yeah.
So for those of you who are unaware, we have at least two commissioners, which gives us a full house. They are on Zoom today, Commissioner Evesberger and Commissioner Dodson. Is that correct? Thank you.
He needs to unmute.
I only have one item. We have a full agenda, so I won't delay the proceedings. But I did just want to alert you to the fact that we had mentioned in the past that we were going to begin putting all of our Planning Commission materials online in the same manner that the county commissioners do for their meetings, where the meeting packets become available in advance of the county commissioner meetings. We're going to follow a very similar format that we're working on for Planning Commission notice and packets, and also put forward press releases and make sure that the agenda items are given due notice on our social media platforms. We've been working with Beth Malasky, who does a great job getting the word out and also letting staff know when there are public comments through social media. And we've also been working with the QAC team, speaking directly with Bruce and George and the rest of their team in terms of how we're going to update our website to make sure all of the packet materials are available. We did not start with this meeting. We weren't quite ready, but likely with the next Planning Commission meeting, there will be several new avenues of public notice for our meeting agenda items. So, thank you. That's it.
And just for clarification, right, Bill is not on Zoom, is that correct? I think I misspoke. He is or is not? So we are not fully staffed. We're -1 currently. Thank you. All right. We have to wait until 9 o'clock, technically, Council, for the first concept plan public hearing?
No, we probably should.
Fair enough.
Please get close enough to it.
Yes, understood. All right, so in light of that procedural speed bump, we will take a 10-minute, 9-minute break until the first concept plan for R.B. Baker and Sons comes up for its 9 a.m. public hearing. All right, I'd like to reconvene today's meeting. The first public hearing that's up, there is a sign-in sheet out in the hallway. If anyone wishes to speak, please sign up. You will also be given a time throughout or at the conclusion of presentations. If something sparks your interest and compels you to testify, you're more than welcome to do so without signing up on the sheet. But we ask that you do that last, as I will go through the sheet if anyone has signed up to speak. The first meeting is a concept plan SP 22-03-0088, RB Baker and Sons of Queenstown. They're requesting concept plan approval and a favorable recommendation of the County Board of Appeals. Because Commissioner Baker is on the panel, he has recused himself. He is out of the room and will not be part of this public hearing process. That being said, Mr. Johnson, you have a presentation?
I do.
Applicants are coming to the table. Thank you.
Steve Johnson, County Planner for Planning and Zoning. As Mr. Lee stated, we're here to discuss project SP-22-03-0088 for RB Baker and Sons. The applicant's proposing a 27.301 acre major extraction operation, and they're requesting concept plan approval and favorable recommendation to the Board of Appeals.
Mr. Johnson, my apologies for interrupting. Counselor, do I need to refer to you to present the county's requirements for holding a public hearing?
Oh, I'm sorry. Is this a public hearing? I don't think. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
That's quite all right. I missed it as well.
All right, the following notice of public hearing appeared in the Record Observer and Bay Times. It is a captioned petition for RB Baker and Sons, Inc. The Planning Commission for Queen Anne's County hereby gives notice pursuant to the Queen Anne's County Code, Chapter 18, that will hold a public hearing concerning a conditional use application for a proposed 27.3 acre major extraction operation located on 311 Cherry Lane in Queenstown. The application was submitted by the petitioner RB Baker and Sons, Inc. The proposal was made under the procedures of Chapter 18.1, Article 17 of the County Code. The notice of public hearing goes on to indicate that the application shall be considered by the Planning Commission. Public hearing on Thursday, November 10, 2022 at 9 a.m. It's now 9:03 a.m. Here in the County Commissioners Meeting Room on Liberty Street in Centerville. The Planning Commission will receive testimony for or against the application. Following the public hearing, the Planning Commission will make recommendations regarding the petitioner's proposal to the County Board of Appeals. The hearing is an open meeting, but upon compliance with the Open Meetings Act, a part or all of the meeting may be conducted in closed session. The entire petition, as well as the development site plan for the subject property and other relevant material, were available for review at the Department of Planning and Zoning during regular business hours. The notice of public hearing concludes by indicating the hearing site is accessible to those with individuals with disabilities, and gives instructions about regarding those with hearing problems to contact the county to receive assistive listening devices. I'm satisfied that the notice and procedural prerequisites to the convening of this public hearing have been satisfied.
Thank you kindly. Mr. Johnson.
The first slide here gives you an overall depiction of where the project's located. It's located just north of Queenstown. More specifically, tax map 51, parcel 7, totals 115.514 acres. It's located at the intersection of Cherry Lane and Route 301. I've included stars on this slide to give you some overall perspective of the operation and where the material is going to be hauled. The orange star is where the pit's going to be located, and the blue star is where the material will be hauled. That's an existing rubble fill operation owned by RB Baker. The subject parcel is zoned Ag and SI, suburban industrial. Major extraction is a conditional use in the Ag zoning district. You can see the orange star there as well. There's some existing conditions. As you can see, it's an active agricultural field. This picture was taken looking west on 301 headed towards Queenstown. So this is looking northwest. This picture was taken looking north on the northbound lane of 301. This one as well. Here's a look at the overall proposed conditions on the site. The LOD shown here in red is 27.301 acres. The actual mining or extraction area will be 21.751 acres. The applicant's proposing a total of 0.915 acres of impervious area and is not proposing any floor area as part of this operation. 22-foot wide haul road will be constructed to provide access to Andrews Lane. That's the orange line you see there within the LOD. 10-foot wide grass access road will be constructed all the way around the mine, that's shown in the dash green. The applicant estimates that 1,238,959 cubic yards of material will be removed over the 7.2-year lifetime of the operation. A landscape berm is being proposed parallel to 301 and adjacent parcel 8. The berm will be 50 feet wide and 8 feet tall along 301 until it reaches parcel 8. Once it reaches parcel 8 and continues behind it, it will transition 25-foot wide, and it will remain 8 feet tall there as well. The 50-foot section of the berm will be planted in mature evergreens, 4 to 8 feet tall, and the 25-foot wide section will be planted in seedlings, as there is adequate vegetation between the berm and Route 301 on parcel 8. There's streams and stream buffer on site. Those are shown there in blue. The applicant is proposing to disturb 0.05 acres or 0.2% of the stream buffer for the construction of the access road. 20% of that disturbance is permitted per 18.1-63B of the county code. There are non-tidal wetlands and non-tidal wetlands buffers on site. Those are all west and north of the stream buffer that you're seeing on site there in the picture. There's no disturbance proposed to those features. It's important to note that the areas of disturbance to the stream are the yellow boxes there. That's for construction of that access road. 58.8 acres of woodlands are on site. The applicant's proposing to clear 2.04 acres. These projects are exempt for forest conservation under 18.2-4B10 of the county code. There are no state or federal threatened endangered species on site. Documentation of this was provided in your packets from DNR. Forested area also contains forest interior dwelling bird habitat, and any changes to the LOD will require further review by DNR. Here are the hours of operation. They were detailed in your staff report. These are consistent with all the other operations in the county. This proposed operation, as part of this proposed operation, the applicant will enter into a host community agreement with the county where the county may receive up to 500 tons of material per year at no cost for the lifetime of the operation. The material given to the county will be utilized for public works projects only. A copy of this agreement was also included in your packets as well. On October 17th, 2022, the sound engineer for the applicant, Vibratech, concluded that the noise generated by the use will not exceed residential noise levels of 65 decibels during the daytime or 55 decibels at night at the property line as required by COMAR. The picture that you see there on the slide is the first sheet of the sound exhibit that was included in your packets. The shaded red area, equipment cannot operate within that area. If they do, the sound levels will not be met at the property line. So in order to excavate in that area, an excavator with a 30-foot reach will remain at a distance to allow for the noise requirements to be met and the bucket will reach into that area to excavate. And I believe the applicant's sound engineers on Zoom, if you have any questions regarding that. With the roadways, the applicant indicates there will be an average of 50 truck trips per day. The trucks will follow the proposed haul route, which is shown on the right. It's a little hard to see, so I'll detail it. Trucks will leave the site, exit the site through Andrews Lane, turn left on Cherry Lane, then turn right on Route 301. They will then head down 301 and turn right on Green Spring or 4H Park Road, continue down 4H Park Road until they reach the rubble fill operation where they will drop the material off at the site. That's a right in, then they'll go right out back on Green Spring Road to a right on John Brown Road. Well, they turn right on the 301 and then right back into Cherry Lane, right on the Andrews Lane. So it's the haul route that the applicant's proposing there. DPW is requiring a $100,000 maintenance bond for the maintenance of Cherry Lane. They anticipate Cherry Lane will require repaving at least 3 times during the lifetime of this operation. And at end use, pond will remain for, I guess, recreational use for the property owner. With that, I'll answer any questions or turn it over to the applicant.
Steve, do you know if DPW has inspected the acceleration, deceleration lanes onto and off of 50, and if so, are they adequate?
I do know that the State Highway Administration
rather.
reviewed
Okay.
this plan and had no comment. I don't know if anybody from DPW could comment any further.
I forgot it was state. Which is why Cherry Lane's under DPW's jurisdiction. however.
Correct.
Yes.
Good morning. I'm Matt Lucas with Department of Public Works. So we did defer to State Highway on this, and they did not have any comment. So
Okay.
they were okay with the
Turning on to
excellent.
Cherry Lane becomes and off of onto and off of, on that haul route that Mr. Johnson just described as your jurisdiction. You have no issues with that, other than the repaving projections?
Yes, so the portion in question is from the entrance of the facility to the state right-of-way of Cherry Lane, which is
And that's
with the
largely what
maintenance
that bond is for?
Yes.
And while you're standing, it's my understanding most of the material that's hauled out of here that DPW uses is for sand spreading on the roads during winter?
Well, in this case, it's aggregate and fill material, so we would use that for projects as necessary.
Construction projects as needed? Great, thank you. Mr. Johnson, all finished?
Yes.
Thank you. The applicants, please introduce yourself, and the floor is yours.
Good morning, Sean Callahan with Lane Engineering.
John Baker, Arbor Baker.
Brian Showalter, McAllister, Detar, Showalter, and Walker. If I could walk you through just a couple little pieces of the site plan. Steve, can you turn to sheet 7 of the set?
Is that, which one are you looking for, Sean?
It's the existing condition plan, sheet 7.
Not sure I have that on here.
Well, if you don't have it.
I don't have it up here
No
on
big
here,
deal.
Sean. I don't know if there's anything I want for you.
Part of the site closer to Cherry Lane is actually an old gravel pit. The majority of the forested portions of the site, as you come in on the right-hand side, if we could zoom in and see it, have very tight uniform contours there in the woods. So this site was formerly a mine years and years ago, probably to build 301. And I think that's important. It shows that there's good aggregate on the property. This plan that you're looking at here shows the proposed conditions, and you heard that sound is a minor concern. As you approach the property line to 301, the equipment actually has to work slightly below grade. And with the equipment working below grade and with the 8-foot tall berm, we do meet the 65 decibels at the property line limit for residential noise. You know, there's no residences over there, and actually the noise coming from 301 onto our property is louder than we will be working adjacent to that property line. So there's not a real sound issue, no residents, et cetera. One of the things that's unique about this project as compared to when you think of mining in Queen Anne's County, you think of great big sand piles. But this is not that type of operation. We're not washing here. We are simply taking the native material out of the ground, putting it in a truck, and taking it over to the other side of the property or other properties Baker own up on the adjacent property to be used as cap and cover for landfill, and also ancillary uses like, resurfacing haul roads, et cetera. You see the haul road on the other side of 18 in this picture. But so there are some other uses of material in conjunction with the rubble fill and landfill, not just cap and cover, but some road work, et cetera, that they will use this material for. And unlike the sand operations, we did identify that 50 loads a day would use up the material here in about 7.5 years. But this project is longer than a 7.5-year time frame. If we were doing 50 loads a day, it would be 7.5 years, but there'll be a lot of material at certain times and then only a load or two per day at certain other times. So this could go as long as a 25-year project, not necessarily coming out of the ground, 50 loads every day. There are 50 loads some days, but then very few loads other days. That summarizes the project. Thank you very much.
Sean, Cherry Lane is paved a little bit off 301, but I don't think it goes to Andrews.
No.
Does it? Is the plan to
It
pave to?
does get, I believe it gets down as far as Andrews paved.
Is
but,
that, is the plan to
it turns to
pave?
dirt, it turns to dirt after that.
Well,
So,
gravel, but is the plan to pave down to Andrews?
no, the intent is to only resurface as necessary to keep the existing condition.
Any other questions of Mr. Callahan?
I have, I guess, for the applicant and maybe for Mr. Lucas. It was presented to us from staff that it was a 7-year operation, 7 years and a couple months. The conversations with the county is designated at 15 years, but now you're telling us now it could be up to 25 years. If Mr. Lucas could come back up, if he wants to, if it's necessary to increase their bond amount for up to 25 years, or does he feel that the current bond, as discussed, would be sufficient?
So the current bond was considered using those 50 trucks every day. Estimates from contractors, and with using 50 trucks a day, we came to the number that it would need to be resurfaced at least 3 times. And that's how we came to the $100,000 mark. So,
Which would remain outstanding during the life of
Yes.
the use. It wouldn't just be a 7-year bond or surety.
And so the number obviously stays the same. Instead, you're drawing out, which instead of maybe every several years, it will be every
Yes.
several more years that it will need to be repaired and addressed using that bond.
yes.
Is that correct, Mr. Callahan?
Yeah, the way these things work out is the mine operators recognize that if they have an adverse effect on the road, the county expects the mine operator to participate in maintenance and upgrades. So the bond is there as an insurance measure, but it's a relationship that has to be maintained or you don't get your mining permit renewed. How that works.
Thank you, Matt. Any other questions of the applicant? Mr. Shearwalter, Mr. Baker, anything else to add?
No, sir.
All right. At this time then, I'd like to invite anyone that's signed the sheet, if it's still outside, for comment. If you gentlemen mind stepping aside, or actually you can stay there, there's a microphone behind you. Bring my sunglasses up here.
It isn't.
It's tough, yeah.
I don't see anybody for this Baker public hearing.
Okay, does anyone in the room have anything to wish to add, public testimony with response to the application in question right now? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and reopen the Planning Commission meeting to hold a discussion and conduct votes regarding the case.
Going on to 301? But the Excel lane is important.
Is there anything from anyone on Zoom? Art or Sharon, you'd like to contribute?
No, I'm good with the presentations.
All right. I have one question of the applicant. We often discuss when we build berms around solar arrays and other things, we have require irrigation or watering to maintain the viability of the trees that are planted on those berms. Do you have any plans to do that or any fencing to keep?
We haven't really talked about that in detail yet, so I haven't really gotten down to that.
Is there a requirement anywhere?
Do you
Go
think
ahead.
you'll irrigate this, or do you think,
We have two different ways of going about it. Hauling water out there. And it's also been talked about, not really seriously considered, but talked about if we, in a portion of it, if we can do it in a safe manner, to dig kind of like a well, to be able to pump groundwater up to the trees, because it's quite a bit of trees. We would hate to see it, fall, not
Well,
make it.
I think the question's a good one, because we have been insistent upon irrigating berms around solar facilities, so I'm not sure this is any different.
If we had to, the current freshwater pond there, if we had to pump out of that, we could.
Oh, and if you get the site plan, then I'm sure Sean Callahan will.
well, I mean, we have to bond the trees. I think there's $100 and some odd thousand bond needed for maintenance and performance for the trees. So if Baker needs irrigation so that he doesn't lose his bond to the county, you can bet that'll happen. I don't have any problem with agreeing to irrigate the trees. But we haven't talked about it.
Sure. And I didn't see in my staff report, and sort of continuing that line of questioning, is there any fence material that's going to be surrounding this to keep people out, deer out?
No,
Okay, that's not a concern of the operation?
no.
Just from the natural topography,
You can
as
see
our
other ponds adjacent to
existing
this.
ponds have been there, since the 80s, 70s.
I asked because it's close to a residential road. There's, there's a development diagonally across the street and 301 there. just a question, again, in line with other similar berm constructions, tree plantings. There's obviously a electrocution concern around a solar array, but obviously this is open water, and didn't know if there was any other, concerns that you have or that you have experienced, Mr. Baker, in other operations that would suggest that a fence might be appropriate.
Right. We've never had an issue.
You're pretty self-contained.
Yes.
All right. Anyone else have any other questions for the applicant? I will entertain a motion.
All right, Mr. Vice Chair, with regard to the concept plan, be it here resolved that the Planning Commission regarding the request by R.B. Baker and Sons, Inc. for a 27.301 acre major extraction operation near Queenstown and is more particularly described in Department of Planning and Zoning File SP 22-03-0088, hereby finds this concept plan is consistent with the goals and objectives of the Queen Anne's County zoning and subdivision regulations and the 2022 comprehensive plan, and hereby grants concept plan approval with the following conditions. 1, proper controls and methods are maintained to minimize truck, mud, tracking, or dust plumes in dry times with wind drift suppression. 2, the facilities must be adequately designed and maintained to free dirt and debris from the wheels and undercarriage of trucks prior to entering Cherry Lane. 3, all soil conservation district approvals are maintained. 4, any changes in the hours of operation will require additional approvals. 5, all landscaping required shall be maintained to assure plantings remain alive and healthy during the operation period. The applicant provides a cash surety bond for all landscaping. Number 6, haul trucks shall adhere to the approved haul route as discussed and presented. Materials, number 7, materials storage piles cannot exceed 45 feet in height. Number 8, all state permits are in place prior to final permitting by Queen Anne's County. Number 9, any legal documents are reviewed and approved by the Planning Commission attorney. Number 10, any future mining phases or changes to the end-use plan must return to the Planning Commission for a recommendation to the Board of Appeals for an amendment to the conditional use. Number 11, any and all financial sureties for reclamation, landscaping, stormwater management, and enforcement, et cetera, are in place before final permits are granted. Number 12, there shall be no truck parking on Cherry Lane, no stacking or parking outside of the gate, no jake brakes, and no tailgate slamming either on site or in the public road. The applicant shall post a sign with a notice regarding these restrictions. Number 13, any requirements by the Queen Anne's County Roads Department and State Highway Administration must be satisfactorily addressed. And number 14, any outstanding documentation or comments stemming from agency reviews are addressed prior to the Board of Appeals hearing.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous vote, Sharon? I didn't hear Ms. Dobson.
I said aye.
Okay. All right, thank you. Now we have a recommendation for the Board of Appeals.
Okay, Mr. Vice Chair, I, with regard to the project, resolved that the Planning Commission, regarding the request by R.B. Baker and Sons, Inc. for a 27.301 acre major extraction operation near Queenstown, and as more particularly described in Department of Planning and Zoning File SP 22-03-0088, hereby forwards a favorable recommendation to the Board of Appeals under sections 18-1-14C7 and 18-1-95E.
There's a motion. Do I have a second?
Second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for your time. Would someone please let Mr. Baker know that we've concluded that portion of the meeting?
Yeah, see you.
And your bond, like Sean said. They'd have to do something, but whether they irrigate it or collect water on it or replant it to be done.
Right.
I agree.
Right.
But I know in the solar arrays, we don't allow that. We said you have to put irrigation in. Because they often change hands.
That I didn't know.
I'm calm on the back.
Send in a letter.
Stephanie, let me know if you need stuff. It's still good. Desk likes to move, Stephanie, so you know.
All right, now that Mr. Baker, Commissioner Baker's returned, thank you. Congratulations. I will open the second public hearing regarding Nashville Properties LLC armored storage application to reclassify critical area designation. Counselor, would you please verify that the county has...
All right, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to recuse myself in as much as myself and my brother and two sisters own property across the street, and Mr. Thompson's going to sit in on this application.
Thank you. Understood. Mr. Thompson, would you please confirm that the county has met its obligations for holding a public hearing on this matter?
Certainly will. This hearing was posted and notice was given to the public that a hearing would be held on today's date, Thursday, November 10th at 9 a.m., and it is currently 9:28. The purpose of the hearing before the Planning Commission is to provide opportunity to all interested persons to be heard on the proposed growth allocation. The Planning Commission will make a recommendation regarding the petitioner's proposal to the Queen Anne's County Commissioners. The petition, as well as the development site plan for the subject property and all relevant materials, are available for review and have been available for review at the Office of Planning and Zoning. And with that, it was posted in the Bay Times and the Record Observer.
Thank you very much. So, staff, Ms. Jones will lead the critical area growth allocation 0-21-10-0048, concept plan SP 21-10-20, Nashville Properties LLC, armored storage, Kent Island, where the petitioner requests to reclassify 2.8 acres of land from LDA or limited development area to IDA, intense development area, for proposed 156,000 square foot, 4-story self-storage facility. In Chester, Ms. Jones.
Yep. So as you said, the applicant is requesting growth allocation from LDA, which is limited development area, to intense development area for 2.811 acres on the property that is located where the red dot is there. Just a reminder, you saw this before you in July as a concept plan, and you did approve that concept plan at that point in time with technical comments, and I'll go over those technical comments when we get there. So as the slide indicates there, the property is zoned town center, and also it's located in the Chester-Stevensville growth area. So the property owner will go through an administrative subdivision in order to, you'll see resulting parcel 287 on the top right-hand corner of the screen, and then you'll see resulting parcel 351 on the lower left there. Basically, the Shamrock Overpass, which is located between these two resulting parcels, runs through there, so that will require it'll be two separate parcels, and the applicant will be proposing to convey parcel 287 to the county, part of their growth allocation, basically for an economic benefit to the county, and that is a requirement of growth allocation. So this concept plan before you, like I mentioned, you have seen before, but I'll go over some of the details. You approved it July 10th, 2022, which your approval of the concept plan is basically the first step of growth allocation. It is for a 156,000 square foot, 4-story indoor self-storage facility, and all existing structures will be removed. The TC design standards have all been met. That includes building height, setbacks, also impervious surface area, and then parking. There's 5.987 of woodlands in the RCA and LDA, which will be deed restricted, which is that light green to the right-hand side of the screen. That will all be deed restricted just for passive recreation. It's mapped priority funding area, enterprise zone, and then for sewer, it's mapped S1, and then for water, it's W2. And then currently, you'll see on the right hand, I've marked Shamrock Road overpass. There's no plans for Shamrock Road or the overpass to come in at this point in time, but it is likely that there'll need to be land donated to the county or state at that point in time when it does come or is constructed. So that might be something the Planning Commission might want to consider when looking at this project. For growth allocation, you'll see the area that's hatched in red. That is the location in which they're requesting growth allocation. It's not the entire parcel, but you'll see that the black dot outline, that's indicating the area of the growth allocation as well. So if the growth allocation is approved, resulting parcel 351 will have 2.811 acres of intense development area, 1.968 acres of limited development area, and 2.47 acres of resource conservation area at the time if growth allocation is approved. So technical comments that you did when you reviewed the concept plan that you had assigned to that concept approval are listed there. The applicants meet with the adjacent property owners to address their privacy and security concerns. The applicants formulate a plan of hours of operation and security plan. The applicants provide a rendering of the structure amongst the surrounding properties. An attempt be made to mitigate the appearance of the structure to reduce the visual impact and fit more into the surrounding areas, and the applicant provide an anticipated traffic analysis. The applicant has provided all of this information. It hasn't been in your packets, but I'll go through it as well. In regards to environmental standards and reviews, this slide you did see with the concept plan, but we'll go over it again. There's no steep slopes, streams, endangered species, or forest interior dwelling birds located on the parcel. The light green at the top depicts, and also at the bottom, is area of woodlands. There's also area of non-tidal wetlands and a non-tidal wetlands buffer on the property. The non-tidal wetlands buffer will be disturbed. That authorization from MDE has been approved, and we do have a copy of that approval. There will be, 1.4 acres of woodlands to be cleared, and then the critical area buffer is expanded on this property, and no habitat protection areas are to be impacted, and that is a growth allocation requirement is to not impact habitat protection areas. The next couple slides, we'll go over the look of the property existing, and then we'll go on to the renderings that have been provided. But this is a look if you're coming down Nash Court. And the next is a kind of a northeast view if you are sitting on Nash Court, looking towards Mr. Hudson's property, which was the neighboring property that the applicant needed to work with.
And that's the brick house
Yes.
or the red house? Right.
This is a view from 5301. And then we'll go on to the renderings. Obviously, one of your technical comments was an attempt to be made to mitigate the appearance of the structure with the visual of the surrounding properties. So here I'll point out the differences. Obviously, the color has changed since the concept approval, but also the arrows indicate that there was a pyramid roof added, and this would be the side facing the front side, which would be facing towards 50. So they added that, and then also there's Bermuda shutters added in that same location as well on the front, which is below the pyramid, which would be the left-hand side of the building. Also, you'll see the rear view. Really, the only change there was the color. And then also the other sides of the building, you'll see that the side towards, which would be facing the woods, basically, but also 50. There was the only change is the color there. But then the side towards Mr. Hudson, that has changed. You'll see that there's been more Bermuda shutters added, there was a false gable added, and then the pyramid, which I've already mentioned as well, has been added along with the color change. So these are just kind of more renderings that were provided. On the left is the approved concept plan, and on the right is their growth allocation renderings that were provided. So this is also just that final view that the applicants provided for the growth allocation. And also, this slide, the applicant has decided to submit some renderings, which I think they'll talk about today. We wanted to put these in here because these were submitted really yesterday, the day before. The applicant had decided to do so. So we wanted to put them in the slide so that you could see them. You do not have a copy of them in your packet, but I believe the applicant will speak to it as well. So there's this option, which you'll see the glass windows on the left-hand side are facing Mr. Hudson's property and towards 50. Prior to, those were just Bermuda shutters. And then you'll see the view, obviously, on the bottom from Piney Neck, which is Mr. Hudson's side. And then this is the second option they also provided. The windows are towards the front, but then the Bermuda shutters that they had submitted previously are still on that side facing Mr. Hudson, and it still includes the false gable as well in the pyramid. So this also is something the Planning Commission will probably want to consider contemplating. These are two views that were provided from the applicant that are off of 50. You'll see that there's this one here on the right-hand side, which the building is very visible, but they also provided the next rendering, which you'll see, which shows a lot of vegetation in front of the building. So I think you probably need to look at, the site plan, the landscaping that's been provided. Also, there's stormwater entities that are to be located in about this location of the building. So you'll want to contemplate that during your review. And this is just another look, obviously, from Mr. Hudson's property. I think there's a few more. And then we also, the property owner spoke with Mr. Hudson, but also staff did. And during that, he mentioned about a shade study, wondering if the 4-story building would, obviously put more shade on his property than what there is now. So there is a shade study that the applicant provided here on this screen. It'll show the fall and winter, obviously winter being the most shade. And then the next is the summer and spring. But Staff did have our GIS department do a shade analysis, which I'll play. It's a virtual kind of thing at the end of the presentation here. And also as well, we had the GIS office do a virtual rendering as like a flyby, so I'll show that one as well at the end. The other technical comment that you had required was for a security plan. The applicant did submit the security plan, mentioned how many lights or cameras would be provided, addressed the hours of operation, how the gate would work. So if you have specific questions about that, you can ask the applicant. And that is in your packet. It'd be in the large binder that you received if you are looking for it. And then they also did a traffic study, which is also provided in the large packet that you received for the growth allocation. So in regards to the growth allocation findings, which were required from Chapter 14, there are requirements that the applicant has to meet for growth allocation. So this is the requirements. Proposed development projects that implement specific development or redevelopment objectives of the comprehensive plan or a growth sub-area shall be given priority for growth allocation. So obviously this project is located in the growth area, like I mentioned, the Chester-Stevensville growth area. And also, if you remember, since we just did the update of the comp plan, a lot of the comp plan involved redevelopment, and basically, so the comp plan does support redevelopment of that parcel, and the parcel is zoned UC, which is a commercial property. So it also has to be determined by the county to be of substantial economic benefit and located in a designated growth area shall be given priority for growth allocation. The property owner has decided to donate that 1.4 acres that's waterfront to the county in order for the county to utilize that either with a park trail or some type of water access. And if we have specific questions, we can speak with the parks director. But basically what it does, it provides the county an extension of an existing property that the county owns where the Cross Island Trail is. And it would provide continuous access. You know, if at some point in time the county wants to provide access to that larger parcel, it may be possible from Piney Neck. And then also there's location criteria. So they have to locate a new intense development area in an LDA or adjacent to an existing IDA. So the existing parcel where they're asking for growth allocation is in the limited development area. A new IDA shall be at least 20 acres or adjacent to an existing IDA that together equals 20 acres, but a new intense development area may be less than 20 acres if it meets these 4 things. Located in an existing growth area, which it is, served by sewer, public water and sewer, which it is, has to be consistent with the goals and objectives of the comprehensive plan, which on the right-hand side, I've kind of pulled out some of the consistencies with the comp plan. It's not all of them that the applicant has provided or that staff provided in the your memo, but it is a list of a few of them that are the most prominent. And then also it has to have an overall economic benefit to the community. So like I said, they are basically conveying that land to the county for any type of passive recreation. So as well as you have to locate a new IDA or a limited development area in a manner that minimizes impacts to habitat protection areas. They are not impacting any habitat protection areas like I already addressed, but also they have to minimize the impacts to water quality. So a requirement of the intense development area is to treat 10% of your phosphorus stormwater on the property. They're going above and beyond that and treating more than they're required than the 10%. And then also is to locate a new intense development area in a manner that minimizes their impacts to the defined land uses of the RCA. There are still RCA RCA land on this parcel in which they're deed restricting, so that part of the parcel should never be impacted. And on the right-hand side is all the consistencies with the comprehensive plan. I'm not going to go entirely through all of them, but the land use map indicates this is a rural business employment area. If you remember our land use discussion we had. Also, It's designated a commercial and mixed use land use within the growth area, provide adequate treatment for the quality, volume, and rate of stormwater runoff. They're treating more than they're required. In regards to the Kent Island Transportation Plan, which is identified in the comprehensive plan, it addresses the Shamrock Road overpass and how the county, will work with the applicant potentially for if at any point in time that development was to come through. And then in the community plans chapter is to prepare for appropriate infill development and opportunities. So those are some of the most prominent comprehensive plan consistency statements. But as in regards to the growth allocation process, where we are in this point in time, we're number 4, you're holding the public hearing, and number 5 is the planning commission will then forward a recommendation to the county commissioners. So that is your goal today, is to send that recommendation to the county commissioners and obviously hold the public hearing. If the applicant has any thing extra to say, or you have any questions.
Thank you. Very thorough. The applicant I see is in the room.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Commissioner.
Hold up. I wanted to show the shadow analysis.
Oh, that's what
Sorry.
I thought you were going to do.
Sorry.
And did you do a drive-by
Yeah,
too?
mhm.
Great. Thank you.
Let's see.
Watch a movie in class today.
They were impressive.
Yeah, it is very cool.
End your presentation.
Oh, jeez. There we go.
Sorry, I'm not here to interrupt. Chris, could you turn this one on? I just wanted to let people know in Zoom, because we're going to have public comment soon. If you're here to make public comment on Zoom, please send a message to the QACTV meetings account or turn on your video. Give us some sign that you're here for public comment. Thank you.
All right, so this is the shadow analysis, so if you. And this is the flyby.
Well, certainly a wholehearted thank you to the GIS department to put that together. Very, very helpful to get perspective. Is that all from staff? Any questions of staff?
Yep, that's all.
That's all?
Yep.
Any questions before we turn it over to the applicant from anyone? Online, I see nothing. Mr. Stevens.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Commissioners. Okay. Got to get out of the sunlight.
I know.
It's tough. No, it's kind of tough. Thank you, Commissioners. Joe Stevens, representing Armored Storage and Nashville Properties LLC, the applicants, and I have Jody Schultz with Nashville Properties, Kevin Sharon, and Jason Clow. Jason's with Armored Storage, and Kevin is the engineer for the project. We appreciate everything staff has done, and the applicant, quite frankly, over the past few months to address some of the issues and some of the comments raised after we received concept plan approval that you wanted to see come back to you. I think it's important to note that while we're here and requesting a recommendation to the county commissioners on growth allocation, we will be back to you, assuming the project is favorable and moves forward and receives growth allocation for site plan approval. So again, you'll see all these plans, you'll see whatever comments you might make today incorporated into the plans and in the form of final site plans, engineered plans, and so on. And we do have a couple of things that I think you probably will want to add on to. One that we'll speak to in a couple of minutes is the overpass, and Kevin will go over that in a minute, but you have the Shamrock Road overpass. The state highways acquired that land decades ago, and at some point they're going to build an overpass there. And in just the past couple of weeks, the county had been speaking with us about, well, we need to do a little better planning for that because there might need to be additional right-of-way there. And we'll show you where that additional right-of-way that would be on the applicant's property might come into play, and was certainly agreeable to the county's suggestion that we meet with SHA, and then perhaps have some condition later on that we provide some type of agreement to dedicate a certain amount of land or something like that. So it doesn't affect the project, and we are looking forward to working on that issue. So with that, I'd like to just go through, because staff did such a thorough job. The staff report contains all the findings necessary to make a favorable recommendation on growth allocation. The book that Kevin Sharon put together here it just contains the environmental report, all of the architecture, all of the renderings, there's concept plan, and then detailed step by step on every finding and every requirement under the critical area law and the county's law that has to be made and addressed. Stephanie summarized those. She didn't include them all, but they're in this packet that's part of the public hearing record that I asked be part of this record, and that is part of the staff. The staff's file on that matter. So with that, why don't we just quickly go down the list? I want Mr. Schultz to start with addressing the technical comments, really starting with the ones regarding the adjacent property, and then we'll work down. Jason will give you a brief overview of the security plan, and we'll work down through those. And then Kevin is going to finish up by going over the SHA right-of-way matter. Okay, thank you.
Good morning, Jody Schultz, Chester. We were asked to meet with Mr. Hudson and his grandson Brandon about some issues that their concerns on the property, which we did. We've addressed. I'd sent an email to Ms. Moordock about kind of surmising our meeting. I can just run through those real quick. I guess and Mr. Hudson's, they're here, so in good health, I might add. It seemed to us their big concern of theirs was the fencing between the property. So we've agreed to, I think we had one style of fence, and I don't think that's allowed in that district. So we're going to, at the end of the day, agree on a fence type and a height of a fence that is agreeable to the neighbors. So that was one concern. Mr. Hudson also had a concern about any additional development that was allowed on our property, and I had run through the numbers with him and assured him, and I'd probably ask maybe Stephanie just to reassure him that we're using pretty much all the floor area allowed in that area. So I think there's maybe 1,000 square feet left available. So there's not going to be any more building or development down on that road.
We're also deed restricting the remainder of the property.
Brandon had asked about the width of the road, and he was concerned about where his parking is, and we kind of, as best we could at that time, showed him it's a 50-foot road through there, and where that comes through, and there's going to have to be a pole removed and relocated, and Jason can probably speak about, they're probably going to bury all that stuff now anyway. Those poles are old and unsightly. The big concern they had was about the windows that were scheduled to be facing their property.
Can you go to that?
Yeah, that seems to be a big issue all around. Kevin, do you have your option thing?
Yeah.
Let me pull that up.
It'd be easier to.
It'd be easier.
Yeah. I'm gonna pass these out if you don't mind to, we had done a couple options, which we were calling option 1 and option 2.
Is there any way to get this to the commissioners on virtual? I know you had it in your presentation.
They have that in there, yeah.
Stephanie.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up. There we go. Is that what you're looking for, Kevin?
Yeah,
we'll just go through.
What Mr. Schultz just passed out.
Okay.
Yeah,
You have option 1 and 2? Can you bring that up so that the folks on? But they can.
They'll be at the end, yeah.
That's all right, you can share. You can share. For yourself. Jeez, Jody.
Out of your ears, Ted.
He was a lineman.
Everybody get one?
He was a lineman.
Right.
You can wait now.
Jody, this goes through the progression if you want to do that, and it ends with the two options.
Yeah, so we kind of started with this, that obviously nobody was real happy with, and then we kind of went to,
So you just advance through them, yeah.
Yep.
Keep going.
I think maybe that was the next option. I think we put a cap on the one roof and tried to pretty it up, but.
This was the concept plan, I think, correct?
Correct, yeah. That was what was reviewed by the planning commission at concept.
Then we went to this softer color. I think we put some Bermuda shutters on it, and then we went to then we added, after a stack meeting, we were asked to kind of try to mirror the back, which is on the left, and Mr. Hudson's house is on the left.
This over here would be
Yeah.
his house.
Try to mirror that back to make it symmetrical a little bit, so we put the cap on the top, and we had met with Mr. Hudson and his grandson, and they were pretty adamant they didn't want any light shining on their property, and they didn't want people looking out the window on their property, so.
You're speaking specifically from that glass facade.
Yeah, correct. And all that. So then the windows we made, they were faux windows. So, the windows on that side are actually fake windows. They look like windows. And we put the shutters on them, so no light would penetrate out the window, and nobody could look out the window over their property. So is that option 1?
No, the next one will be option 1.
Yeah, the next one. Here you go.
Option 1, so we were kind of between a rock and a hard place because we felt like the county wanted to mirror that, and yet the neighbors didn't want that glass and all that light penetrating on their property. So what we thought we'd do is, what we submitted was one option. This is an option with glass on his side, and then the next one. And then you can see from the bottom one that what would be showing on Mr. Hudson's house is that glass, which is what they didn't want. And then option 2 was kind of a hybrid of both, glass on the front and keeping the shade, the faux windows, so it wouldn't be overlooking and shining on their property. So we thought what we would do, since it was such a big issue, was just present all 3, and like Mr. Potato Head, pick what you want. I want that nose or that ear, and we would be receptive to doing whatever everybody really wanted on that side. But, and, we're coming back to planning commission again, so after hopefully a successful growth allocation. So we'll have plenty of time to massage all this and appease everybody, fence, the windows, make sure it looks, satisfy all their concerns that they have over there.
So,
So the option was just kind of a last minute thing, and Stephanie was good enough to allow us to present it today, so that's kind of where we are with that.
so that really goes into really the growth allocation technical comments regarding meeting with the applicant, softening the building, and coming up with more architectural detail and better incorporating the building into the area in the neighborhood. We can go into more detail with that if you have any specific questions, but I think Jody just outlined the changes that have been made to the building. You saw the flyover, you saw our directional pictures. You can see that the building hasn't changed in regards to, yes, it is a large building, but it's only occupying a small percentage of the property. And it's preserving and protecting the habitat protection areas, the habitats that's on there. So one other thing, why don't we just talk briefly about the colors? You asked for a palette, I think, last time we were here. So Jason has done that. Who wants to speak to that? You, Jason?
Yeah. So we just have sage green, kind of blends in with the trees on all the columns, and then a light tan will fill this middle. Now this bottom area is all stone, which is concrete, it's a split face block, and then we also have just white trim on everything else. Everything else would be a aluminum white trim.
So
And we can submit this if you want.
yeah, and this would be the color pattern that unless staff came up with something different during now and site plan, or if you give us different comments today, that would be the earth tone color pattern we follow and abandon the red altogether in terms of any type of building colors. Also, you asked for a security plan, and we provided you that. Jason's the expert, so he can talk to you about every camera that's going to be on that place and how the gate's going to work. But I think what was really important was, what are the hours of operation? And so those are the hours that we've put forth. Those are the hours we've agreed to. If there's concern that it might operate too long or too late into the evening, it's going to be secured other than those hours. So somebody can't somebody can't punch in and get in at 2 a.m, their number. But I'll let Jason give you a brief overview and how they're going to be monitoring cameras and things of that nature, and then if you have questions.
So there's an automatic gate at the entrance just past the Hudson driveway that they'll have, when they sign up, they get a code as they punch in, and it lets them in the gate. Then they also have to have that same code to get into the building itself. So at a certain time, we shut the gate off. I think it's 9 p.m. 7 days a week. It shuts off at 9 p.m. It opens at 7:30 in the morning. There's also office hours that there's somebody going to be there between 8:30 and 5:30 during the week. On Saturday, 9 to 1. Really, so nobody that can get in there at nighttime. They can't even get past the gate at nighttime. That's 9 o'clock. And there's cameras on every hallway inside. The entire perimeter of the building will be covered by cameras. The actual gate will have a camera on it, so. Any other questions?
Actually, along that lines, not so much about the camera security, but the outside lighting, and especially with respect to the facade that faces the Hudson property.
Right.
Can you, I don't see any light
We weren't going to do any
at
lighting.
this stage.
We were going to do a small, low light on that side just to light against the building, because Mr. Hudson was concerned with light bleeding your room. Sure, I don't blame him. There is going to be an emergency exit on that side, so it'll just be a small wall light next to the door. We had to do that for electrical code. But other than that, that's it on that side.
And we also provided it, the last couple sheets of the concept plan, the growth allocation plans. There is a photometric plan that was done, and staff actually asked us to do a blow up of the area against Mr. Hudson's property. So that's on the last sheet, and also cuts of the cut sheets of the types of lights that'll be used. So the photometrics show that we're not spilling light onto adjacent properties.
That's the lighting plan you'll include with the site plan if we get the final site plan?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Which tab was that?
It's actually in the plans itself. I think you have reduced versions of the plan in the, you have your
I
booklet.
think they have big sheets, they have big copies of the plans as well.
It's not
Yeah,
here
it's,
from some.
it's that, it should be under that first tab.
Under the first tab, and it's called
11 by
Renshaw.
17 sheets.
It's been prepared by Renshaw Engineering Commissioner. You'll see it's the last two sheets in that first 11 by 17.
It'll look like this. It has all the,
On the dots,
Foot
yep,
candle.
I have it here, and the reduced set. Now, when they did their plan, because I've noticed, I believe the zoning setbacks are like 10 feet.
Correct.
But these plans show a 20-foot setback from the property line. So when they did this light survey, for the photometric survey, did they take this at a 10-foot setback or the 20-foot setback?
they took it at a 20-foot setback,
Okay.
where the building will be placed.
I don't want to interrupt the planning commission. I was going to go on to another item.
I'm okay.
Yep, thank you. The staff also recently, I had a conversation with Mr. Cahoon, the county's public facilities manager, and there's been more recently discussion about the overpass there and what that means, and a closer look at it to say, hey, you know, we're considering giving growth allocation to this project, and if we do we need to now evaluate if there's going to be a need for some additional dedication for that overpass? Because if you look at the way that it lands, you can see at the top of the screen that it's kind of funky with that triangle coming in of property and how that all is going to land geometrically. So for two things. One is that if the planning commission puts a condition on that we meet with SHA and with the county staff and come to some reasonable agreement about what, if any, additional land might need to be dedicated there, we're certainly fine with that. Second, I asked Kevin just to do a plan sheet just to show what it would look like, you know, what the overpass looks like in that area.
Short of doing a bridge design, I took the state highway right-of-way that starts on the south side of 50. Can you do the 100 scale, please?
Is that the other one? Yeah. Yep.
Thank you. It starts on the south side of 5301 at the end of Shamrock Road, and the plan is State Highway owns that land on the south side and also the north side.
Everything that's in white.
Everything that's in white, and so they would. The proposal is they would do a flyover there, and then as you go to the north, it would most likely sweep in and connect to Piney Creek Road. So in the yellow shading there is what we would anticipate as a donation or, you know, some kind of an easement to the state highway or the county to make that radius.
So that wasn't discussed at all at your last meeting, so.
Right, but that came up
from
at the stack with Mr. Coogan.
Yeah, right, I remember
That.
Mr. Cohen at stack, and then he gave me a call, and we all met, internally we met. So, you know, that's supplementing the incredibly good and detailed job staff did with all the information that really Jody and Kevin and Jason put together for them. You know, we recognize that anything here in the building, it's a sizable building, there's no question about it. But there's a little bit of competing interests going on here, really, and that is that it's zoned for this type of use and many other intense uses, apartment buildings, for example, you know, fast food restaurants, shopping centers, the whole 9 yards. And what we've done is take a building and condense it. It's taller, but we've condensed it so that it avoids, you know, as much of the property as possible, minimizes the building pad, and blends into the surrounding area from an architectural standpoint. But even more importantly, I think, is that it uses hardly any sewer. And at a time where the county has said we want to encourage redevelopment, but don't use sewer because we don't have it. And so we've got this property here that provides for a very good commercial use and doesn't use any sewer, generates no impact to roads, generates no impact to schools, and has a pretty good revenue base from a tax standpoint, and then is dedicating land for access to the water from the Cross Island Trail, and now probably some land for State Highway as well for the overpass. So we think we've taken a property that would be difficult to develop otherwise under the zoning itself, and made it quite compatible from a low-intensity use. It's a big building, but it's a very low-intensity use. And so we ask that you act favorably on this application. We're here to answer your questions after you take public comment, and we're agreeable to the additional conditions that we just outlined.
Are there any questions of the applicant? From anyone on, a commissioner online? Art and Sharon, anything?
I'm good.
Chance? All right.
You said you have like Mike, so.
I'm good.
How would you like us, Mr. Chairman? I mean, there's not a lot of seats. We can stand back over there during public comment, remain here.
I think if you're fine there, like we did for the previous hearing.
That's fine, okay. I just wanted to ask you. Thank
Since
you.
there's a microphone behind you, just, to me, it's something they don't necessarily want to at the same table.
I think it's a little bit easier than
but
us
I think
going back
it's
over
fine. Mr. Shelton, is there a sign-up sheet available? Oh, I see, they do mark it on which topic, yeah. All right, Mr. James Hudson, first on the list. Mr. Hudson, if you prefer to sit, we certainly get to it.
prefer to sit because I.
Gonna hand him the mic?
Please. Mr. Hudson, please introduce yourself and, for the record, state your address, please.
Good morning. I've met most of you from a previous meeting. My name's James Hudson. This is my wife, Mary Ellen Hudson. We are currently the owners of 2300 Pine Creek Road. Unfortunately, as I'm looking, it looks like my house is the only one that's really got a problem. I have met with Mr. Schultz and Mr. Clown, right? And I was very impressed with their attention to what my problems were. To sit here and say that I like a 4-story building that close to my house, I'd be lying to you, because I don't like that. But I am a realist, and I know that progress has to move on. They've indicated to me, and I'm looking at this option too, it's something that I think we could live with if we met some of the other problems, such as security fence and all that. I wasn't prepared for what this hearing's all about. You know, I was more attuned to what the first one was and what we were going to talk about and hopefully come to an agreement on. And I have made written comments to you all, and I hope that you will take time to read them, because I don't think there's anything that can't be worked out. I just need a couple things that are not what I anticipated that we talked about. But you know, communications is not always received as it's sent. I have no problems with additional development. I know there will be other developments, but it's going to be on other lands. That's not my concern. I am concerned about this doesn't show a security fence encompassing my property on the east side, which I hope has been agreed upon. And this shows a 6-foot fence. We talked about a minimum of 10-foot fence. I could live with an 8-foot if I had to, but I want a security fence and not something that people can stand there and look through on. I have pet animals, and I got almost a year-old great-grandson that's going to be living there. We've been there for since 1958 or 1985. my family has, and we've raised 3 grandchildren, 2 of them currently employed in Queen Anne's County, 1 employed in Anne Arundel County as a teacher, and we want to stay where we're at. So we want to be good neighbors, but it is what it is. I made my comments, and I think that's the best I can say.
Well, thank you kindly for your very respectful comments, both in writing that was given.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
That's quite all right. Mr. Hudson, thank you for your thoughtful comments and respectful comments. We have them in writing, and you are correct. This hearing is specifically for the growth allocation, but it's perfectly appropriate, sir, for you to introduce your concerns as well, and they are duly noted, and they will be followed up on in subsequent
Thank you very much.
application protocols, as the height of fence, location of landscaping trees, things like that. You are on record, and I would expect and encourage you and the application team to remain in contact.
Thank you.
All right. Bob Zelig, is it? From Graysonville. Please introduce yourself and tell us where you reside, sir.
Yeah, my name is Bob Zillig. I live at 702 Long Point Road in Graysonville, Maryland. And I'm here because I'm opposed to the county administration approving a critical area land use regulation change. Today, in my 3 minutes, I want to focus on whether this project provides substantial economic benefit for the community, a required criteria for your approval. If the project did provide substantial economic benefits or met a critical infrastructure need, perhaps changing to intense development designation could be justified. However, in this case, there's an identical indoor storage facility 3 miles down the road, Route 50, in Graysonville, U-Haul Public Storage, which has 300 storage units in it. In addition, there are 7 other public storage facilities already on Kent Island, all within 4 miles. There's another 3 facilities along Route 50 approaching Queenstown. These existing business owners and their 11 facilities will all be significantly financially harmed by the incremental 1,100 public storage units that are going to be added in this urban-sized storage facility. The applicant is in an attempt to put their best foot forward and gain commissioner support is gifting a triangular 1.5 acres adjacent to the state right-of-way parcel. This 1.5 acres is classified by the soil survey as Hanga peat, very frequently flooded tidal. It is basically a tidal marsh filled with Phragmites and cordgrass. It has the highest critical area protection designation of resource conservation area and is therefore undevelopable. The applicant's claim of $150,000 valuation in their economic impact statement seems grossly overvalued when comparing to other comparable undevelopable marshland parcels in the QAC property viewer. Does the county really need this tidal marsh or have any immediate park or trail plans to utilize it? I would think not, considering the county already owns an adjacent, undeveloped, for 20 years they've owned it, a 40-acre waterfront parcel, and is using access already through the state right-of-way for the Cross Island Trail, which is where it's located. In addition, we have a brand new Cross Island trailhead just down the road with public parking and restrooms. This gift of a tidal marsh is of questionable community value and is being offered in an attempt to negotiate for what the developer really wants and needs, the commissioner's approval to change intense development status on the land. Finally, they are providing a deed restriction on future development, which is basically meaningless considering they are capped at 157,000 maximum floor area, and they are already proposing a building of 156,000 square feet. So in summary, the applicant has not provided a compelling list of substantial economic benefits for our community, which would justify the county releasing any of its remaining capped IDA acreage. And I fear the precedent this would set for future infill critical area requests. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zelig. Lenny, is it Jack Moritz?
That was a good attempt at that name.
Sorry.
Hey, good morning. My name is Lenny Jakimowicz. My wife and I, Janine, live at 1006 Long Point Road. You're going to hear a little bit of a synopsis of what Bob just laid out. We moved here to enjoy the natural surroundings and quality of life that we've come to appreciate over the 20 years in Kent Island. Unfortunately, during that time on Kent Island area, we watched many of the things that originally attracted us to live here slowly disappear. My understanding is that this huge facility, and it is big, a little bit larger than a football field, will encroach on the Cross Island Trail where we all enjoy biking, riding, and leisurely walks. Further, approximately 1.2 acres of pine forest will need to be removed to make way for the oversized building, which does nothing to enhance the attraction to Kent Island. In addition to removing the 1.2 acres of beautiful nature, the developer is also seeking approval to change the Chesapeake Bay Critical Area Land Use designation from limited development to intense development. I'm not in favor of such a change and believe it, if granted, will open the door to more destruction of our wetlands and natural surroundings. Also, this project is inconsistent with other documents, such as the newly approved comprehensive plan for the Chester community, that clearly spells out our protection of wetlands and responsible development. I look to our elected and appointed officials to enforce maintaining the Chesapeake Bay critical area protections for environmental sensitive shorelines from large-scale commercial intrusions such as this proposed development. In closing, I guess you don't have to read my email because I'm here reading it myself, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Marty Skolnick, are you here to speak on the growth allocation or on the rezoning later?
On this.
Floor is yours, sir.
Morning, everyone. My name is Marty Skolnick, 303 Swan Cove Lane in Chester. We're a mile up the Cross Island Trail from where this is. We're right on the Narrows. A couple of questions. We've talked a lot this morning about the view from Route 50, but the view from the trail, the Cross Island Trail. The trail cuts right in front of this. It comes along the far right boundary, right in front of this property, then continues on in front of Gibson's Grant. This is a 4-story building that we use the trail, and heard some others use the trail extensively for biking, running, walking, and as soon as you turn that corner from the woods, you're going to see this 4-story monstrosity right in front of you. We heard this morning a little bit about, well, the scale of the building, 156,000, uses all the allocated. But I didn't hear anything about, can this be 2 stories? Can it be spread out so that you don't have that view? Can there be more vegetation, more permanent trees along the trail on both sides to block the view? As a resident, I care less about the view from Route 50. It's advertising, it's location, that's great. But as a resident using the trail, I don't want to see it. I understand the economic benefit, but it impinges on the view. And I want to quote from the Queen Anne's County Tourism website. The trail affords pedestrians, runners, and cyclists unique opportunities to view wildlife in an environmentally sensitive design setting, all while enjoying the scenery of waterfront, canopied woodland, and access to public parks. Doesn't say anything about 4-story commercial buildings. On the website TrailLink, which is a commercial website that inventories walking, biking, hiking trails around the country, about the Cross Island Trail. With many access points along this route, this tree-lined trail takes you from neighborhood green space to boatyards and wetlands, showing you glimpses of waterfowl and wildlife. And I have to imagine that the next thing after that comma is going to be in a 4-story commercial building that obstructs the pleasantness of that trail. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, one last question I have, and this may be a rhetorical question. If the additional allocation isn't granted, would the petitioners continue with this as a smaller building spread out over different sizes, or is the only way they're going to build this is as a 4-story, 156,000 square foot commercial building? Thank you.
Thank you. We have Mr. and Mrs., or perhaps not Mr. and Mrs., but a Robert and Lynn Snyder. You're here to speak on the rezoning, is that correct?
That's on a different project,
Right, yeah, so is it, I believe that Mr. Skolnick was the last I have at least signed up to speak to the armor storage facility. Is there anyone in the room that would like to add commentary? Mr. Marsh?
Yeah.
Please.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Rob Marsh. I live at 3018 Bennett Point Road in Queenstown. the adjacent property owner to this proposed project. I'd like to speak on behalf of it. I think it's an excellent use for a very difficult piece of property to build on. I think they've done a great job of trying to minimize its impact. It's going to have minimal road traffic. It's going to bring water down for us. And I see it as a very positive addition to this county. With the additional homes that have come in, I think that this type of storage facility is needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the room that would like to add public testimony to the record? Seeing none, are there anyone on? Yes.
Hello, am I good to begin? I'm sorry.
You're welcome. Go ahead, ma'am.
Awesome, thank you. Hello, my name is Megan White, and I'm an environmental science student at Washington College and a part-time employee at Shore Rivers. Shore Rivers is an environmental nonprofit organization with over 2,000 members. We are dedicated to the protection and restoration of the water shores of the Eastern Shore through science-based advocacy, education, and restoration. Annie Richards is the Chester River Keeper and is currently on maternity leave, so I have been tasked with speaking on her behalf, on behalf of Shore Rivers in her absence. On July 14th, Ms. Richards submitted a written testimony to this commission urging the commission to adapt an unfavorable report to the then concept plan for the armored storage proposal. The stance of Shore Rivers continues to be in opposition of the new petition. We urge the commission not to grant the critical area growth allocation petition to Nashville Properties because of the detrimental environmental impacts it will cause. The most problematic aspect of this petition is its call to remove 1.4 acres of trees from critical area. If their petition is approved and the area is reclassified as IDA, they will not have to create a remediation strategy to make up for the clearing of those trees. Trees are essential in preventing erosion and sedimentation, slowing runoff, and absorbing excess nutrients that would otherwise enter the Maryland waterways. Queen Anne's County currently has the lowest tree density in the state of Maryland, and clearing 1.4 acres of tree will further add to water quality impairments of the Chester River. Further, there is great negative economic impact that would be present from irreversible environmental damage caused by the construction and clearing of these trees. With the increased impervious surfaces, loss of critical land, and loss of 1.4 acres of trees, the river will be more susceptible to algal blooms, erosion and sedimentation that will damage ecosystems, increase water pollutants, and decrease biodiversity. The manpower and money that would go towards addressing these environmental issues are great. While economic development is in accordance with the comprehensive plan, that development causing irreversible damage to the environment and critical area contradicts the environmental vision set forth in the Queen Anne's comprehensive plan. One of the most significant risks facing Queen Anne's is sea level rise and lack of proper action, reduction of critical area and wetlands, and neglect of environmental protection will cause irreversible damage to the environment. We hope that you take Ms. Richardson's comments from July into consideration, as well as the issues that I've mentioned today. Thank you for allowing me to speak and for your consideration.
Thank you, Ms. White. Is there anyone else online?
Yeah, we may have one more. We heard that Michael may want to speak. So, Michael, if you'd like to make comment, you can unmute. Did we ask him to unmute? Yeah. Okay. Maybe not.
I don't see you coming anything on, but if it changes, feel free.
Yeah, we could come back. I do
Feel
have
free to speak up.
plenty of
Do you have some to
emails.
read?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I hope everyone's ready for my sultry voice for a long time. Our first comment is coming from Jude Ruske. I'm a property owner at Beach Harbor, 111 Beach Harbor Drive in Graysonville, Maryland. I've owned property here for over 15 years and watched the quality of the Eastern Shore watershed deteriorate over this time. The clarity of the water in the bay and the quantity of fish and crabs have all deteriorated over this time frame. I have been cautiously optimistic that the efforts like the Queen Anne's County Comprehensive Plan would stop and even reverse this decline in environmental health. With this in mind, I want to express my opposition to the request to change the land use from limited to intense development in order to enable development of the armored storage building adjacent to the Piney Creek and Cross Island Trail. This will clearly destroy part of the sensitive buffer zone that helps protect the Bay estuary. Please don't peddle on your commitment to improve the sustainability of this precious estuary. Our next comment comes from Susan Vienna. I, along with my siblings, own the property at 2216 Piney Creek Road, which is across from the proposed development of parcels 351, 352, and 287. I have no objection to the reclassification of the 2.811 acres of land from limited development area to intensely development area for a proposed 4-story self-storage facility to be built there. I request you vote in favor of the growth allocation as requested by Nashville Properties LLC. Our next comment comes from Robert and Alice Hickernell. We are opposed to the use and change from limited to intense. We live at 900 Long Point Road for the last 35 years and have witnessed the deterioration of underwater grass due to overdevelopment. In the old days, fish and crabs were plentiful. Now it's difficult to catch any. All right, our next comes from Gene Sadler. My name is Gene Sadler, and my husband and I have lived in Graysonville at 805 Long Point Road for the past 28 years. Since we have moved here in 1994, we have seen Graysonville and Kent Island grow astronomically, and our shorelines and critical area land use shrink comparatively. While acknowledging that the QAC comprehensive plan recognizes Graysonville, Chester, and Stevensville as growth areas, it also stresses the need to pressure our critical area land use and has designated certain areas as limited development for that purpose. If private citizens are asked to limit what they can do on their personal property in order to be good stewards of the land, why should developers be allowed to change critical areas from limited to intense development whenever they see an opportunity for personal financial gain? I strongly oppose the approval of Chesapeake Bay critical area land use change from limited to intense development for the armored storage building proposed adjacent to Piney Creek and the Cross Island Trail in Chester, Maryland. This portion of the Cross Island Trail runs through a forested area which provides habitats for wildlife and protects the shoreline from further erosion. The proposed building will encroach on the adjoining forested area, affecting the already scarce habitat areas remaining on the island for our disappearing wildlife. The monolithic scale of the proposed storage building is larger than any other building on Kent Island. It will dwarf the neighboring residential properties on either side of the entrance, with Mr. Hudson's yard only being 20 feet away from the 4-story building. The developer acquired all the parcels after critical area regulations were established and is now asking the county to change long-established shoreline regulations in order for them to realize financial gain. If this change is approved, it is setting a precedent that will allow commercial buildings of this size and scale to crop up anywhere there's a piece of land that will accommodate them because they can change county critical area land use. Is that honoring the purpose of the QAC comprehensive plan? Growth allocation should take into consideration the economic advantages to the county when allowing new development. Will this storage facility provide enough new jobs to warrant granting its application? Will it fulfill a need in the county for more storage, or are there many current facilities already adequate for our area? The facility is planned for 1,100 storage units. Can current Kent Island storage companies compete with that facility, or will they be forced out of business? There is a reason for designating a critical area land use as limited development. Changing the designation to intense development to appease developers' desires to build a bigger and bigger building and/or residential developments will lead to the demise of the environmentally sensitive land bordering our beautiful Chesapeake Bay and surrounding tributaries. Kent Island will see significant changes in the coming years as a new bridge is built and the freeway is expanded with additional lanes and impervious surfaces. Maintaining existing long-standing critical area regulations is more important than ever. Please remain faithful to the intent of the QAC comprehensive plan and deny this request to change the designation from limited to intense development. Next comment comes from John Pringle. My name is John Pringle. I live at 110 Bayview, Graysonville Road. We have lived here for 26 years, and during the past few years, we have seen a large number of enormous commercial buildings go up all around us. Kent Island and Graysonville commercial growth seems to be encroaching in every direction. While acknowledging that the QAC comprehensive plan recognizes Graysonville, Chester, and actually, it looks like this is a copy of the last email. Would you like me to continue?
No, if they're, in the interest of time, if you can just sort of read the opening statement, give us their position, and rather than, if there's something outstanding, please.
Well, we want to get to lunch, right? At some point. No,
I'm just kidding. I'm happy to take, but maybe
we can forward all
John
the emails.
Can start keeping the time. I think
Sure.
after 2 minutes, we certainly get the gist of where people are going.
Of course. Our next comment is going to come from, I apologize, 1 second, Craig Holberger. This is a request to include this statement as public comment. The armored storage project, as I understand it, is very large, 130 by 300 by 56 feet building. It's tall with access roads and parking, creating an eyesore and detraction from the serenity of the Cross Island Trail, and will encroach on designated Chesapeake Bay critical area, removing 1.4 acres of mature wooded pine forest on critical area shoreline property near the Cross Island Trail. In my opinion, there are other locations nearby that already have cleared land and good access roads that would be better locations for this facility. 2 examples are Love Point Business Park off Log Canoe Circle and other areas, or Mattapeake Business Park off Route 8. In conclusion, to summarize, I urge the Planning Commission to reject this project, certainly at this location, and consider other options. Chesapeake Bay critical area is so designated for a reason and should not be frivolously encroached upon, especially when other locations are readily available. And there were some additional details that are in the emails. Thank you to Mr. Ziegler for coming in, so I can skip that one. Our next comment comes from Paula Tartel. I would like to submit a comment on the voting of rezoning the area of Route 8. This rezoning would cause huge traffic issues, which is already bad enough along Route 8. Our roads can't handle more houses and would probably have 2 or 3 cars apiece safely. There have been way too much building on Canal Island, and could all this building compromise our little island? Plus,
Excuse me, Bruce, just a second. I think that's a rezoning comment. They're talking about Route 8.
Comprehensive rezoning, yeah.
we'll see you soon on that one. Sorry. And that concludes all of our comments on that then.
For the
For armored storage, yes.
Thank you so much. So by
I wanted
my,
to make sure you guys were listening. That's why I read the last one.
so by my count, it was 5 in the unfavorable column and 1 in favor. Is that correct? Or at least close there?
That's what I got.
2, 3, 4, 5.
Yes, and we did have other emails, but they were in the room and made public comment.
Yes, that's fine.
Yep.
Yeah, no need to repeat that. All right. Anything else from the general public before we close public comment and go back into our regularly scheduled programming? Oh, that was a false alarm. All right. I will close public hearing and reopen our conversation regarding the applicant or the application before us to redesignate LDA to IDA and grant recommendation to the county commissioners for growth allocation. There discussion or comments from anyone on the board? Questions of the applicant? Anyone online? Go ahead.
I mean, so to my fellow commissioners, the concept plan approval that was given by the commission in July was predicated upon a few comments that we made, and 2 of the ones, I don't have the exact wording from that meeting, but 2 of the ones that stood out to me are a mitigation of the appearance of the building, and which I'm getting a sense is still not been resolved. Like Jody and Mr. Schultz had said, they've got a couple of different renditions, and they're not sure which one is going to work best to satisfy that. And then the second one was, as Mr. Hudson has stressed, is the fence type and height that would work in the neighborhood. So I'm torn between our concept plan approval was predicated upon a couple of these conditions. Do we table this and move it to next month to give them time to resolve these issues? Or if the growth allocation is approved, do we condition this again? I have no doubt that the applicant has met the growth allocation requirements as very clearly, concisely, and substantively outlined by the staff, and thank you so much for that. They have gone through this with a fine-tooth comb. So there's no doubt in my mind that they've met these requirements. It's just was our intent in July in approving this concept plan with these conditions. I just wanted to throw that out there to my fellow commissioners and see how you felt, whether our intent has been met or are we still up in the air. So that's.
Can I address that in terms of how we plan to proceed, or would like to proceed? That we see these as for Mr. Schultz and for Mr. Clow as determining what the county would want and what the neighbor would want. So
we're going to do either of those solutions. If the county will allow the 8-foot fence, we'll put an 8-foot fence up. If the county will allow a 10-foot fence, and that's what Mr. Hudson wants, we'll put a 10-foot fence up. We don't see this as it should hold up and come back to have a discussion about it, because we'll do whatever the regulators and the neighbor want us to do. And that's that issue. In regards to the options Mr. Schultz gave in regards to the architecture, again, we think Mr. Hudson will prefer the side that has the fake windows and shows the glass facing out west. If staff is agreeable to that, that's what you'll see on a final site plan. So those are really the only two remaining issues, and I don't even see them as issues. They can be concluded in between now, if the county commissioners grant us growth allocation, and when we're in here for final site plan. So we don't feel like we're at a crossroads with anybody. We just, there were some last minute things, and we're agreeable to any of those. And I see it as similar to the condition that staff would like to put on now about the SHA right away. We can easily work those out. And this is not site plan approval. I mean, we got to come back.
Understood. But along that same vein, Mr. Stevens, back to the technical conditions that we put on during concept plan review that appear to me have gone unanswered. And I understand your position to sort of place that down the conversation horizon a bit, but I'd like to bring to your attention that we asked for you to provide a modulation and stepping, that was reiterated during STAC, to reduce the overall height and appearance and the scale of the building. And then another bullet was to flat out reduce the footprint of the building if possible. Would you please address those technical conditions either by saying you're going to do it later or by saying we're not going to do any of that?
Well, I will go through the technical conditions, and this is what they said. The applicants meet with the adjacent property owners to address their privacy and security concerns. So what part of that hasn't been met?
I listed 2 bullet points that I'm specifically concerned about.
Okay.
I understand you met with Mr. Hudson.
Let me finish. The applicants formulate a plan for hours of operation and security plan. That's been done. The applicant provide renderings of the structure amongst surrounding properties. That has been done, as well as the flyover. An attempt be made to mitigate the appearance of the structure to reduce the visual impact and fit more into the surrounding area. The applicant has incorporated many more architectural features, changed the colors of the building, included the peaks on both sides, and the only thing we're at this point in that regard is whether or not we have windows all around the peak that faces the Hudson property or not. Nowhere here did it say the applicant has to reduce the size of the building. And the applicant, made it clear that that was something that they really didn't want to entertain. And if that is a condition of growth allocation or of the commission, I did not read it that way. I mean, we had that discussion, and there was not a condition that said applicant must reduce the size of the building between the concept plan approval and now. That was not a condition. And then, so in the last one was that, I think that was the last one. Yeah, that was the last one. So I think we've met all the conditions or all the technical comments that were provided and gone above it, because now we're getting technical comments about the SHA right away, and we're willing to incorporate them into the plan. So unless this commission is saying now, after the concept plan's approved, that the applicant has to reduce the size of the building, which wasn't said at the last meeting. I think you discussed it and that didn't come out. I think we met everything.
I wasn't implying that it was a condition of today's conversation. I was revisiting the conversation because I'm reading in the staff report that some of the conditions that we asked you to address had not been addressed. And if that's going to be the case, then that's your position, and I respect that. But as a deliberative body, I want to make sure that we're having the conversation before the horse gets out of the barn, because we have in the past pushed things off, and the response we get is from applicants, not necessarily this group, but of applicants, is we've already gone that. I wish we had heard that earlier. And I'm relaying that to you now, that we have concerns. We voted on and gave you technical comments. You've addressed some, but not all, in my opinion. And it's now up to us to whether we move that forward and give you some more rope to come back to us with those comments as long as we have that conversation now and you understand that that will come up and you'll be held to that, to those standards. And some of those listed as to reduce the footprint of the building and to address the modulation and step down potential of changing the facade of the building that was brought up numerous times in the STAC meeting most recently held in this. And I just want to make sure that your group is prepared to address those at some point in time because they will be coming back up.
Understood.
Ms. Mordock.
Good afternoon, or morning still, yes. I'm Amy Mordock, Planning Director. I think that what we would like from the staff perspective is to clarify this point. I think that the last condition, that an attempt be made to mitigate the appearance of the structure to reduce its visual impact and fit more into the surrounding areas, I think the interpretation of that condition is what has caused a little bit of confusion on the part of staff and probably the applicant. That condition was interpreted by staff to look at reducing the bulk of the building as it is adjacent to residential uses. And so I think that is where those additional stat comments that you're referencing, which are not a part of these conditions, but in terms of staff's interpretation of that condition, that was the guidance that staff was giving to try to implement the Planning Commission's this condition. So I think that if, based on all of the renderings that have been presented, and we greatly appreciate the applicant working with us and being flexible and honestly trying to address these conditions and meet with Mr. Hudson. I don't feel that there's been any negligence in this attempt to address the condition. I just think that the interpretation of this condition right now could use a bit of clarification. If what has been presented to you in these options seems to meet the spirit of that condition, then that's great. If perhaps not, if you were intending to look at a reduction in the bulk, and that's the way staff was representing that language in the last STAC meeting. If that is the intention, clearly the bulk of the building hasn't been reduced, but the visual impacts apparently have been through multiple options that have been presented to you. So I think that being very black and white and clarifying that the interpretation of that comment would be helpful to move this matter forward, and so we can stop talking about what we mean by reducing that impact.
Thank you.
And we did not, when we came out of that meeting, because the issue of reducing the size of the building was discussed and was not put as a condition, we did not think, and nor do I think, and if I go back, and I did go back and review the Planning Commission tape, that was asked of the applicant, and we indicated during that meeting that we didn't think that that would be an appropriate condition. Obviously, that's up to your discretion. And one of the major reasons is because this whole area is town center, even those couple of residential uses, and you heard from both parties today, the two residential uses, the Hudsons, whose grandkids live there, and also the other person who's across the street, they're all zoned commercial. I mean, this is not next to a residential area, so there's a future aspect of it, and at some point that property, at some point in the future, will probably be commercial as well. So anyway, that's where we were after leaving the last meeting.
I agree with you that it was not a condition of today's growth allocation conversation, right? But I also appreciate staff's and Director Bordock's outlining and clarification comments just made. But it obviously is still something the elephant is still in the room. So to that point, I'm happy to have that conversation addressed when we come back, assuming a favorable recommendation today or not. It could be dead in the water in a couple of minutes. So I want that to be clear that will come back up again, because we've heard it today in public testimony and written emails, as well as in discussions around it. The elephant will just be in the room again next time. But I agree with council that that was not a condition of today's conversation or vote, for whatever that means. All right.
So I, and.
We still in discussion.
Yeah, I just, I agree with Amy in that, just speaking from a perspective of a member of this body, that it was not a reduction in the size of the building, it was more a mitigation of the appearance of the building, where I know we've got a couple of different versions. So I was kind of confused when I went through some, I understand the staff meetings and this had come up, but I was a little confused because as a member of this body, I know that was not a predication of our decision, but it was more a mitigation of the appearance of the building. So there's some confusion here. So.
Thank you.
All right, so I'm open for any motion or further discussion by those online, commissioners online or at the table here.
So I'd like to make a motion that let it be resolved at the Planning Commission regarding the request by Cloud Ventures LLC for critical area growth allocation for the classification of 2.811 acres of land from limited development area LDA to intense development area IDA for a proposed 156,000 square foot 4-story self-storage facility with interior access only and associated parking as described in Department and Planning Zoning File SP 21-10-0082 and O 21-10-0082, hereby find that the property is identified and is located in the Queen Anne County growth area and is consistent with the goals and objectives of the 2022 Queen Anne County's comprehensive plan. The petition is consistent with Chapter 14.1 of the Chesapeake Bay Critical Area Act. The property is located in the Town Center District. The property is already designated as S1 and W2 with no amendments required, and the redevelopment will only require minimal additional sewer. There will be no impact to habitat protection areas, and water quality impacts are to be minimized. And that also in accordance. Yes. Oh. Not quite finished, Ms. Dobson. And I hereby recommend a favorable recommendation to the County Commissioners, subject to the findings as they relate to the applicant's attention to the following conditions as established during the July 14th concept plan approval. And they were the original 5 conditions. Do I need to read those out, Sharon? Okay. The applicants continue to meet with the adjacent property owners to address their privacy and security concerns. The applicants formulate a plan of hours of operation and a security plan. The applicants provide a rendering of the structure amongst the surrounding properties, which has been completed. An attempt be made to mitigate the appearance of this structure to reduce its visual impact and fit in more with the surrounding areas. The applicants provide anticipated traffic analysis, as well as the following recommendations to the County Commissioners as potential conditions upon the growth allocation. The applicant will dedicate resulting parcel 287, which is 1.464 acres, to the county for passive recreational use. The applicant deed restrict 5.987 acres of woodlands consisting and resulting of parcel 351 located within the Resource Conservation Act area and limited development area for resource protection and passive recreation. In addition to the normal stormwater management, the stormwater facility shall be tested for effectiveness on a regular basis in accordance with the testing methods approved by the County Department of Public Works and in consultation with the Maryland Department of Environment. There should be no disturbance to the non-tidal wetlands on site. They shall provide a fence in the north side of the building along the adjacent property owner's property line
So, Mr. Hudson commented about the other property line as well. Do you want to be sure that they have the fence on both property lines, or just the property line
Can
that's
I make
referenced
a comment
here?
about that? Mr. Hudson,
That was it.
So I'm in the middle of the motion,
Oh, I'm
I'm sorry. The applicant shall meet with DPW and SHA to discuss future road widening that may be necessary in the event that the Shamrock Road overpass is ever constructed in accordance with the Ken Island Transportation Plan. And any of the items outlined in page 8 and 9 of the staff report, as suggested by staff, as an attempt to mitigate the appearance of the structure and reduce its visual impact to fit in more with the surrounding areas.
So there's a motion. Is there a second? And you said favorable.
Favorable, that is correct.
There's a motion, Mr. Baker seconds. Further discussion. Sharon, did you have something to say, Madam Chair?
Well, I had a couple questions, but let me back up for a minute and think about the ending of what he just said. I think I'm covered.
So you're silent for the short term here?
Yes, I am.
All right. Mr. Ebersberger, anything from you, sir?
No, I'm clear.
All right. I have a question of the applicant, and that is the inconsistency that was brought up in the two view perspectives from Route 50, one showing a more heavily, densely vegetated frontage view from Route 50 and one not. Can you please address those inconsistencies as to what will actually be your intended view from that?
Yeah, so the first one shows all of the trees in front of that being removed, just to kind of show its place on the site. The second one shows more of the trees, and those trees, most of those trees will remain. It'll probably be a little bit of a mix between those two, but more towards existing trees remaining. When you actually look at the site plan, after you carve out the area for stormwater management and the parking and stuff, there will still be some trees along that property line to provide some screening.
So in short, you're looking at some sort of hybrid between
Pretty much.
what's
It's
been
just hard to
proposed
get
here?
on that image and take out trees.
Okay.
So it'll be something similar.
I would presume then, should you come back before us, that you'll have a more definitive representation of what that would look like?
As best we can. I mean, we're taking an existing picture and, and trying to take the trees out of it is,
Oh, I think the technology is fantastic that we saw today on display, so.
Okay.
I'm just.
We'll work on
We'll
that.
have something.
It's obviously a concern.
We'll have something for you.
Fair enough.
But they wanted to show with no trees so that you see what the building looked like from that angle. That was the purpose.
Okay. Is Chairman Dobson, Chairwoman Dobson, do you have any further thoughts that have come to mind?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
All righty.
I do have a comment.
Yes.
In the motion itself on this number 7, the last item itself, I think in the recommended resolution, it was like almost as if you were going to choose any item of those, and we kind of didn't do that.
Because it was parenthetically presented?
Yes.
Yes, understood.
So we need to really identify what
Mr. Reese,
are the,
did you?
what are the conditions.
Would you like to choose any of those that are on the previous page to add, or would you like to redact that number 7?
Actually, I would prefer to redact number 7, because I believe all the comments were addressed pretty much in the top 5.
So your modified motion would be, everything stands up until number 7, we'll redact number 7?
That is correct.
All right, there's a motion, a second, then an adjusted or an amended motion. Do we have a second to the amended motion? Mr. Baker, thank you. All right. All those in favor of granting or backing Commissioner Reese's favorable recommendation, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Aye. Mr. Ebersberger, we didn't get a vote from you, sir.
Aye.
In favor of the recommendation?
Yes.
You know that?
Everybody but you.
Just more opposition. All right, motion passes.
Thank you very much, Commissioner.
Thank you. Recommendation passes. All right, I'm looking at 11 o'clock on the nose. I think everybody could use a leg stretch. We'll convene in 10 minutes. Does that work?
Good.
Hi, Steve.
I'm gonna go take pictures with Rob.
Somebody changed that. It's been wrong all morning. I'm like,
Well, maybe the, Howard thing, no, it's wrong. Where it should be.
Yeah, it's just really bad.
All right, thank you for your attendance, thank you for your patience, and now reconvene the Planning Commission for its normal operations to take on the third public hearing on today's agenda, which is the Comprehensive Rezoning Map Amendments, MA number 22-13, to evaluate, discuss, and receive public comment regarding property owner-initiated rezoning petitions received during the 2022 Comprehensive Plan Update and Adjustment to the county growth area. Ms. Jones, you have a staff or someone else on the staff have a presentation for us?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, Chris, thank you. Council, would you please review the requirements for the county to appropriately post and convene a public hearing?
And you'll have to bear with me because this is a long one. I'll try to leave out the relevant portions of it. The notice of public hearing, which appeared in the Bay Times and Record Observer for the required period of time prior to this, prior to the convening of this public hearing. Pursuant to 18.1, 216, 217, and 220 of the Queen Anne's County Code, the Queen Anne's County Planning Commission gives notice it will hold a public hearing for the comprehensive rezoning of multiple properties in the county. The comprehensive rezoning amendments were initiated and submitted by individual property owners for consideration by the Planning Commission during the comprehensive plan update. Planning Commission and County Commissioners consider these parcels for inclusion in the comprehensive plan update, specifically during review of the land use chapter and map 4-9 and map 4-10 of the 2022 comprehensive plan. This includes parcels where the growth area was reduced. The County 22 Comprehensive Master Plan was adopted by the Board of County Commissioners on May 24, 2022. Planning Commission will now consider amending the county's zoning maps to reflect the property owner initiative zoning requests. Properties affected by this new comprehensive zoning change are number one.
Can I just do that, please?
Okay, this is this is bigger. I can read this better. Number one is a Coal Ventures Inc. Property on tax map 60 tax map 60, parcel 180, which requests a change from the ag district to suburban industrial. Number two would be Michael and Ellen Foster, tax map 56, parcel 324, lot 2. The request to change the zoning from Stevensville Historic Village Center District to the Urban Commercial District. Number three, Queenstown Bank of Maryland, tax map 56, parcel 426, lot 1, which is a request to change the zoning from Stevensville Village Center District to the Urban Commercial District. The next request is the Madison Land Partnership, tax map 56, parcel 324, lot 3, which is also a request to change the zoning from Stevensville Historic Village Center to Urban Commercial. Number 5 is a request by MPH Enterprises LLC, Roman number 5, tax map 56, parcel 326, lot 4. These are all obviously next to each other, which is same request as the last three. Number 6 is a request by SEW Friel, tax map 60, parcel 140, request to change the zoning from ag to suburban industrial. Number 7 is James B. Roy Jr., tax map 60, parcel 37, which is a request to change 2.33 acres of land suburban industrial to neighborhood conservation 1T. Number 8 is Colby Schultz, which is tax map 57, parcel 210, a request of rezoning from neighborhood conservation 1 to neighborhood conservation 8. Number 9 is Kevin Leverton, tax map 60, parcel 03, lot 11. Request to change approximately 15 acres of a farm of 237 acres from ag to suburban industrial. 10, R.B. Baker and Son, Inc., tax map 51, parcel 28, which is a request to change the zoning of about 10 acres from ag to suburban commercial. Number 11 is Ronald A. Kopek, tax map 58E, parcel 643, request to rezone property from Graysonville Graysonville Planned Residential Neighborhood District to Neighborhood Conservation 8, or NC 8. I'm sorry, I misspoke. To change the zoning of that property from Graysonville Planned Residential Neighborhood District and the Neighborhood Conservation NC 8 to Neighborhood Conservation NC 15. The next is a request by Orin Valancourt. Property is tax map 22, parcel 21, to request to change 8.7 acres of property from NC2 to ag. Next is a request by AYS Marine Enterprises LLC, tax map 56, parcel 77, which I believe this property has actually changed hands and is now titled to a different entity. And that is a request to change the zoning from suburban industrial to Ken Island suburban commercial. I misspoke again. This is a request to change the zoning from SI, suburban industrial, and Ken Island suburban commercial to just suburban industrial. Number 15 is a request by Joseph G. Johns III, tax map 48, parcel 29. Request to change from NC 8 to Village Center. 16, the property owned by Ken Island LLC, tax map 56, parcel 279. Request to rezone approximately 83 acres from countryside to Stevensville Master Plan Development District, and 3.4 acres from countryside to urban commercial. In growth area, these would be the proposed rezoning changes as a result of changes in the growth area maps. Number 1, 15.95 acres, a portion of Dream Farm LLC, tax map 57, parcel 68, requesting that about 3 acres of that 16 acres, which is presently zoned NVC, to be neighborhood village center, to be rezoned to town center, and the balance of the property to be rezoned countryside. Growth area number 2, this is about 17 acres of land owned by John Claude and Joanne Lowry, tax map 57, parcel 43, lot 1, 9.6 acres in total. I'm sorry, 9.6 of 18 acres total to be rezoned, partially rezoned to town center, and about 8 acres of that 18 acres rezoned to countryside. With area number 3, owned by John Claude and Joanne Lowry. A request as a result of the change in the growth area that 42 acres of that property be rezoned from the neighborhood village center NVC district to countryside, and the remaining 5.5 acres, which are already in countryside, to remain in countryside. The 4th growth allocation rezoning is property owned by Gardner's Purchase Inc., tax map 57, parcel 39. 10.2 acres of that property to be rezoned from neighborhood village center to countryside, with the remaining 0.27 acres to remain NC8. Mr. Chairman, I'm satisfied that the notice and procedural prerequisites for the convening of the public hearing have been satisfied.
Thank you very much. You haven't said that much in 6 months of hearings. Appreciate that greatly. So in discussion with staff, what we've decided to do, because there are, as we've just seen and heard, lengthy technical descriptions of these rezoning, is staff will present them one by one. What I'd like to then do is receive public comment on each of those, and we'll move on so that everybody can have a turn and we keep some orderly conversation about each specific topic rather than have staff run through all 16, 18 of them and then have public comment thrown about randomly throughout those 16 and 18. So please pay attention. I'll give you a chance to speak, but if you could follow along with yours or anyone you'd like to comment on, we'll have staff present, give the public a chance to testify, and we'll move on to the next one. Fair enough?
All right, so what you have before you is the 2022 comprehensive rezonings, and this is basically the outcome of your land use changes with the adoption of the comprehensive plan from May. So the map in front of you just shows where all the requests are located. The orange, there is comprehensive rezoning requests, and then the green dots are changes to the growth area. So this is the summary sheet that the Planning Commission has before you. I just wanted to lay out to you that obviously your job today is to send a recommendation to the county commissioners, and following that, the county commissioners will make the ultimate decision. So back when we were looking at the comprehensive plan, property owners had a chance to submit comprehensive rezoning requests. And the Planning Commission's job at that point in time, you all reviewed all those requests and then decided whether it was consistent with the comprehensive plan or not, and then also whether the land use needed to change in the comprehensive plan on the land use maps. So the map in front of you is one of the land use maps that would have changed if it was needed with the comprehensive rezoning request that was before you. So these land uses that you'll see throughout this entire discussion are established residential areas, rural business employment areas, rural agricultural areas, and permanently preserved areas. And then the other map that we discussed during the comprehensive plan update was the comprehensive plan map, the detailed future land use map, and these also are obviously land use designations that were given to properties if they submitted a comprehensive rezoning request, and it just depended on what the request was as to what land use it was changed to if needed. So just a reiteration, you've seen these before. You've made decisions on them prior to, in which they were adopted in the comprehensive plan. So the first request is for Cole Ventures. This is a property along Grange Hall Road. They're requesting 3.54 acres from agriculture to suburban industrial. Where you'll see there the black dotted line, that is the area they are requesting their rezoning request. Put up a little pointer here so you can see. I'll do my best to trace it. It's this black line here. And at that point in time, obviously the existing property is suburban industrial, which is already existing, and that's what they're requesting for the remainder portion of the property there. During the comprehensive rezoning request, the land use map was changed to a rural business employment area, and then also industrial business park as would be consistent with your suburban industrial zoning. And then there is a comprehensive plan goal there to promote traditional businesses, emerging industries, and economic development. This current property is used for a construction yard, is what the contractor's yard, sorry. So if anyone has comment, I guess, or...
Okay, so does anyone in the room here have comment on Cole Ventures' proposal as described, either in favor or opposed? Anyone online? No. Anything written? No emails. All right, moving on. Bethany.
So the next 4 that are before you came in as a comprehensive rezoning request for multiple properties, but they're all requesting the same zoning, and they're all awarded the same land use within the comprehensive plan update. So they're all marked A, B, C, or D, depending on which property it is, but we had to indicate each property that was within the request. So this would be A, which is owned by Michael and Ellen Foster. They're requesting 5.5 acres of that Stevensville Village Center to urban commercial. So if you look, it's the hatched red that they're requesting to be zoned urban commercial. And the blue area over here is to remain Stevensville Village Center. So there's a clear distinction of that zoning. There is currently an intermittent stream that runs along there where that zoning change would be. And this would be the same for the rest of the 4. It's a rural business employment area within the land use map in the comprehensive plan, and also commercial and mixed use within the comprehensive plan map. And the goal here was to ensure that sufficient commercially zoned lands exist and that those lands are appropriately located and provided with infrastructure. So what I'll do, I'll go through all. Do you want to do each one individual?
Film as a block, I think.
Okay.
Right, because they're all, and then we can take public comment on
all
any of them
4.
since they're all
Okay.
the same, adjacent, contiguous.
Yeah, it's the same.
Yep.
So you have A, which I indicated, B here, which is owned by Queenstown Bank. They're also requesting urban commercial. That property is already developed with the bank there. C is the next one within this application. It's owned by Madison Land Partnership. I believe there's currently a liquor store at this location. They're requesting that the entire parcel be zoned urban commercial. And all of the land use designations are consistent with the previous properties. And then D is the remainder there. They're obviously following the intermittent streamline as A does. So it's just this portion that's hatched with the red that they're requesting urban commercial.
And just for clarification, so A is, I believe, undeveloped at this point?
Yes.
B is Queenstown Bank, C is Love Point Deli, and D would be that new automotive body, just for reference in the room. All right, does anyone in the room have any comments, for or against, up, down, left, right, on any 4 of these properties? Seeing none. Anyone online? Oh, yeah, please.
Hello.
Can you go to the mic so we can pick you up?
And identify yourself.
Hi, my name is Teresa Deegans. I'm an adjacent property owner of Cocky Lane, the land located at tax map 56, parcel 324, lot 2, owned by Michael and Ellen Foster. I would like to contest the rezoning of this property from Stevensville Historic Village Center to urban commercial. This property was purchased knowing it was a part of the historic district and should remain as such. Part of this property has already added a very loud automotive shop just through the thin wood line from Cocky Lane. This automotive shop creates excessive noise and stores vehicles and discarded tires in the parking lot. When I purchased my home on Cocky Lane, my family was under the assumption that the land referenced above, owned by the Fosters, was farmed agricultural land as it is regularly plowed by a tractor. However, to my knowledge, no crops have been grown on this land that I have seen. The property has a stream that runs through it that likely has water runoff into the Chesapeake Bay. Cocky Lane cul-de-sac is a residential area with many families who enjoy the quiet hometown feeling. Our kids play in the street, and families are always walking with kids and pets. If this land is changed to urban commercial, it would lose the ability to ever become residential to another single family. We on Cocky Lane would be grateful if this parcel of land were to be kept as woodland or single-family homes to match the surrounding area. Commercial property facilities directly across the street from our single-family homes would lower the property values of our single-family homes, make the streets unsafe to walk due to the increased traffic, increased crime, pollute the Chesapeake Bay, and local sewer systems. On this parcel of land, there are many types of wildlife. On a daily basis, you will see numerous bald eagles in the trees, deer, fox, and several other wildlife that should be preserved. I ask you to please reconsider the zoning of this property or using it for additional commercial buildings, businesses in the future. If this rezoning is passed or the property used as commercial, it will uproot many of the families on Cocky Lane. We do not want to look out of our front windows and feel like we are in a city. We left Anne Arundel County years ago to avoid this. I want my kids to be raised how I was raised in Southern Maryland. Please keep our small town feeling. Please don't jeopardize our children's safety. And please don't cause us to uproot our lives and move. Please reconsider and be true to the residents of Cocky Lane. Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you, Teresa. And just for a reminder, if I could ask John, keep a 3-minute timer. You know, if you're in the middle of a sentence, I'm not going to shepherd hook you off the microphone, but just please be respectful so we can get through this as effectively and efficiently and deliberatively as possible. Is there anyone else in the room that would like to speak to either 4 of these properties? I think there was someone. Yes, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Mitchell Andrew, and I'm the managing partner of Madison Land Partnership and the tenant at Love Point Deli. I just wanted to say that when we purchased this parcel, Mark C on the map, 1999, that property was zoned urban commercial, and along the way, shortly thereafter, it was redistricted as the Stevensville Historic Village Center. I think that our business and most of the businesses that exist in these locations fit more with the urban commercial designated than they do the Stevensville Historic Village zoning, which I think is great zoning for downtown Stevensville. I think we're kind of in a differently defined area than downtown Stevensville, even though we exist in the same zoning. So that's all I have to say on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Ma'am, you had a comment you'd like to make?
Hi, my name is Darlene Marks. I am also a property owner on 202 Cocky Lane, and I oppose the changing from the historic Stevensville to the urban commercial. So my thoughts are with Ms. Deakins, you know, that we don't want to look out of our home and see the commercial buildings and lose our quiet neighborhoods. So I just wanted to have a voice and say that I oppose it as well.
Speak to all 4 properties.
Yes.
Thank you. Just to be clear. Is there anyone else in the room speak for or against, favor or support of either any 4 of these properties? Bruce is springing into action. Sorry, excuse me.
We did have multiple emails that came in from Teresa, Daniel, and Ms. Marks, right? Yeah. So we do have those in our folder. We do have 2 more emails, though. First one comes from Patrick Clary. I am Caddy Corner property owner of Cocky Lane of the land located at tax map 56, parcel 324, lot 2, owned by Michael and Ellen Foster. I would like to oppose the rezoning of this property from Stevensville Historic Village Center to urban commercial. Our area is a great place to live and raise our family. Our street is quiet, friendly, and safe. There are multiple families with small kids, and we take advantage of being able to take them to play outside in a safe manner. I believe that the rezoning of this area would be a negative effect to the foreseeable future. Property values would decrease, crime would increase, traffic would become even more of an issue, and the current infrastructure is not able to handle a commercial setting. It would be detrimental for the existing and numerous different types of wildlife that make this area their home. The town has seen many events throughout the year that we all take part in. The area allows for parades, historic days, homecoming events, art, and car shows. All of this is not going to be possible to keep this if the area is changed. We live across the street from the largest business park in the area. I beg you that you please reconsider and keep the commercial setting across the street and not bring them to ours. Thank you for your time, and please let me know if the information was shared well. Hopefully you saw that, Patrick. And then one more from Stephen Root. I have the adjacent property of 208 Cocky Lane of the land located tax map 56, parcel 324. So this is the beginning is identical to the last email. In conclusion, though, he did change that the historic district has numerous events throughout the year. Actually, no, that is the same. I'm sorry. Same exact email.
Okay.
So those two were the.
And only referencing that specific property.
Correct. Yeah, all 5 emails we got were all about
From the copy, because that's,
yeah.
it's contiguous adjacent with.
Right.
Understood.
All right, that's all for us.
Yeah, so Cocky Lane, just for everyone's understanding, is the top right-hand corner of that in the blue?
Let's see,
Right, okay.
try to run
Yep. Oh, I see, right, yep.
right there.
All right, is there any, so room has spoken, email has spoken, last chance going once, twice, 3 times for anything A, B, C, or D. All right, moving on to Ms. Jones would be, is that Friel?
Yep, so
Okay.
the next application is Friel, as you mentioned. This is also located along Grange Hall Road. The existing Friel cannery is here. The applicant is requesting 11 acres of the existing agricultural land here on this parcel to be zoned suburban industrial. I'll outline it there, try to outline it. Basically, it's mapped rural business employment area in the comprehensive plan, and then also industrial business park. And it's the goal that's identified here is promote traditional business, emerging industries, and economic development.
And so for reference, the Coal Ventures, number 1 that we discussed, is directly north of that.
Yes,
correct?
you'll
Yep.
see that. That's about right here.
Yep.
If you see that.
All right. Hold on, all right, I see Mr. Friel in the audience. Would you like to speak on this? Okay. Fantastic. Anyone else? Anyone online? All right, moving on to number 7, James Roy Jr.
1 second. Okay, so this property owner, the existing property, I'll run the outline here. The existing zoning is suburban industrial and neighborhood conservation. What the property owner is asking to do is to expand that suburban industrial in this area, the black dotted line. There'll relatively be 2/3 of the property will end up being suburban industrial. In the comprehensive plan, it's established residential areas and rural business employment area. It's 2 because obviously there's 2 different zonings for this property. And then obviously it's a residential area and then also industrial business park. And it's to promote traditional business, emerging industries, and economic development. And if any of you are familiar, this is where Economy Tree is located. I think you've seen a recent site plan relatively in the last 2 years probably for that property.
Is that it?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Anyone in the room like to speak to Mr. Roy's petition at Economy Tree? Anyone online? No. All right. Moving on, Ms. Jones. Colby Schultz.
The next one before you, the applicant, currently the zoning is neighborhood conservation, which is NC1, and they're requesting to go to NC Conservation 8. Obviously, the zoning district is the same, it's just the density requirements that will be different. They'll be able to develop at a greater density, but all permitted uses are still the same. It's this one here. I know it's a little hard to see because it's all yellow. But it's established residential areas and medium density residential throughout the comprehensive plan. The land use designation did not have to change. It was already a residential area. And then it's to seek to preserve unique community identities as a goal. So if you have any questions.
I think we discussed this earlier. It was a donation to the fire company.
Yep, I think
back
that
in
was,
the day.
no, that was the other one. That was another one that Jody had.
That was a product in North that staff had recommended not.
Okay. Sorry
Yep.
for the confusion. I'll keep my mouth shut. All right. Would anyone like to speak for or against the property in question? Anyone online?
There is a gentleman in the room that's been trying to make comment, I guess. We just haven't received any word. I'm not sure what he wanted to comment on.
When you say in the room, you mean the virtual room?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's Michael we were trying to reach earlier. I'm not sure.
Oh, Mr. Foster, right. All right, well, there's nothing in the room, so if Mr. Foster's online and is available to speak, then
Yeah,
you may have the...
So, Mr. Foster, I'm asking you to unmute.
Yes, I think I'm on there now. I couldn't get, it wouldn't let me unmute before. So can I back up on the Cocky Lane request? If I can address that, first thing, I purchased the property in 1985, and the property was zoned.
Could you tell him all we can see is his chin?
You were better off before, Mr. Foster, with the aim of your, there we
There
go.
you go.
Maybe,
Now we can see your forehead.
somewhere in between would be better. There you go. Yeah, you can reset it. Yeah. All right, Mr. Foster, you have 3 minutes, please, go ahead.
Yeah, I purchased the property in 1985, and it was all zoned urban commercial. We developed both the north side as well as the south side into phase 1 and phase 2 of Benton's Crossing. We sold, on the north side, we sold the Queenstown Bank a parcel, again, zoned urban commercial. They developed it. We sold Mitchell Andrew a parcel for Love Point Wine and Spirits. That was developed, and later Bayside Auto. When they went through a Stevensville plan update, they took the property, and because of the fact that the property goes all the way from the Queenstown Bank all the way over to Cocky Lane, but it's physically divided by a woods and the intermittent stream, which Ms. Jones spoke about. Because of the property on Cocky Lane, they went back and wanted to redo that for Stevensville Village Center. Unfortunately, they went back and took all the land that was previously UC and had been developed to UC standards. And that certainly is inconsistent. UC is a more highway commercial as opposed to Stevensville Village Center, which is an in-town commercial. So this petition that we requested for rezoning does not go over to Cocky Lane. The people that live on Cocky Lane can be assured we have specifically requested that everything from the intermittent stream to Cocky Lane would continue to be Stevensville Village Center. So we're not asking for any change there. We're only asking for changes all the way over on the highway, be it Route 8 as well as Route 18, Love Point Road. That's the only area that we're asking for the changes on the Queenstown Bank property, the property that my wife and I own, Mitchell Andrews' property, and Matt Harisco with Bayside Auto, that they be taken and made consistent with all of the other side of Benton's Crossing, which is also Village Center. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we had already passed Schultz property. Yes, sir.
There were no comments on the previous property?
There were no comments. Would you like to make one? Hard question to answer, wasn't it? All right. Ms. Jones, please continue.
Yep. So the next one is number 9. This is property owned by Kevin Leverton. It's to rezone 15 acres of agricultural zoned land to suburban industrial. This is also in the area of the Coal Ventures, which was here at this location. And this is 15 acres on this parcel. There is open space located on this parcel. It will have to be moved in order for the property owner to develop the property with suburban industrial. But it's designated as an industrial business park on your detailed future land use map, and then rural business employment area on the countywide land use map. And I think the intent is for an adjacent property owner to purchase the property.
All right, anyone in the room would like to speak to this application? Anyone online, Bruce?
Yeah.
All right. Ms. Jones, RB Baker, we're going to skip that one, sorry.
Tom, can I ask a question here?
Absolutely.
We're going through all these, and are we going to take a vote at the end and say that we approve or disapprove all these at one time? Or-
If they all align, that's correct, Art. Sorry, procedurally, we've discussed, we would like to have the opportunity, if there is a slate to vote, we'll vote the slate. If not, we'll pull those out and discuss those individually. And we'll also have to discuss Mr. Baker's individually, because he will have to recuse himself for that. We're going to hold that until last.
Okay.
All right, so number 11, Mr. Kopech, first one.
Yep, so number 11 and number 12 are adjacent to each other, so they are owned by the same property owner. Number 11 is here, and then this would be number 12. On number 11, the current zoning is NC8 and also the Graysonville Planned Residential Neighborhood, and they're requesting Neighborhood Conservation 15 for the entire parcel. And then for number 12, which should be here, they're also requesting the Neighborhood Conservation 15. They're noted, indicated as established residential areas in their countywide land use map and medium density residential. Also some history for this property. There was a amendment in the sewer, the master sewer and water plan that only allows 8 dwellings to be developed on these 2 parcels. So that's kind of some history behind the properties. So that's,
Okay.
do you have any other questions?
Anyone have any public comment on the 2 Kopech parcels, number 11, number 12? Nothing online. All right, moving along to number 13, Oren Vale Court.
What happened? I'm missing number 13. Where'd it go? There it is, it got moved. Okay, so this, sorry about that. This property owner is currently zoned Neighborhood Conservation 2, and they're requesting it to be rezoned to agricultural. It's this piece of property here. It's surrounded by, to the north and the south, by agricultural zoning, and then to the east, it's the neighborhood conservation. It's indicated as rural agricultural areas and agricultural and open space in the comprehensive plan, and our comprehensive plan has multiple goals and strategies for support of agricultural land. So the one there is just one out of the many, probably.
All right, anyone like to speak on behalf of this in the room? Seeing none, none online. Moving right along to number 14, Ellington Enterprise.
All right, so this property owner, obviously you'll see it's AYS Marine. The property has changed hands to Ellington Enterprise LLC. The existing property is zoned Kent Island Suburban Commercial and Suburban Industrial. This property here. The property owner is requesting that it be zoned Suburban Industrial for the entire parcel. As you can see, it's consistent with the neighborhood there. It's Suburban Industrial to the north and the south. The countywide land use is rural business employment area, and then as well as industrial and business park for the detailed future land use map. And a comprehensive plan goal is to prepare for appropriate infill and redevelopment opportunities, and this comes from the community plans chapter.
Any comments in the room? Yes, sir.
My name is Jay Johns. I own the property adjacent to the particular property we're talking about at 317 State Street. It's my property. I'm in favor of the zoning change to match up with everything around it.
We noted.
Thank you.
Yep. Favorable. Anyone else?
Also, I'd like to indicate the new property owner did provide an email indicating that they would like to continue with the comprehensive rezoning request.
We have one email from Mike and Julie Ranelli from 610 Love Point Road. As adjacent property owners, we recently received notification of a hearing regarding a comprehensive rezoning request for CRR 38 for 307 State Street in Stevensville. We believe the request is moot and that the Planning Commission may not approve it because, number one, AYS Marine is not the owner of 307 State Street and has not been the owner of 307 State Street since June 22nd, 2021, on which date the property was transferred to Ellington Enterprises of Millersville, Maryland, deed 0375775. This information is publicly available in the Maryland SDAT. Number 2, AYS Marine Enterprises LLC, through its attorney, initiate its comprehensive zoning request via a letter dated November 15th, 2019, long before the window for submitting such request. This letter is publicly available on the Planning and Zoning website, along with an email response from Amy Mordock stating that in the fall of 2020, the county will be issuing a draft 2020 comprehensive plan for a 60-day public consider rezoning applications. These comprehensive zoning requests may be submitted up to the end of the 60-day time frame, after which such zoning applications will no longer be accepted. In summary, CRR 38 was submitted in an untimely fashion by a party which no longer holds an interest in the property, and there is no record of the current owner having submitted a request. In addition, and as adjacent property owners, we are opposed to request zoning change. Therefore, we respectfully request that the Planning Commission either reject CRR 38 or remove it from consideration.
Thank you. For the record, it is noted in our staff reports and other documents that it is formerly AYS, but now Ellington Enterprise, LLC. Ms. Jones, number 15, Joe Johns, Stevensville.
All right, this property is currently zoned neighborhood conservation and C8, and they're requesting village center. The land use map in the comprehensive plan is designate established residential areas and medium density residential areas. It's this property here on the corner, the blue hashed area. And it's 0.291 acres.
And that's directly across from Lowe's Bayshore, is that correct?
I believe so.
Am I in the right place?
I think that's here.
Okay. Would anyone in the room like to make comment on this? Yes, sir. Come on up.
Morning, Robert Snyder. I'm at 203 Old Love Point Road, Stevensville. I own the adjacent property north of that. It is zoned NC8, always has been. I'm a lifelong resident of Kent Island. I've lived there for almost 50 years. And I like the neighborhood. It's
I've been
single residential use, and it's a nice quiet neighborhood for that fact. It's like 40 feet from my bedroom, and I don't want to have a business with lights or fans or signs right outside my back door. I'm not in favor of the zoning change.
Understood. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else? Yes.
Okay. My name is Lynn Snyder. I have owned and lived at 203 Old Love Point Road just a few months shy of 50 years. I own 2 lots that are neighborhood conservation 8 side by side. I am opposed to the rezoning of 201 Old Love Point Road from neighborhood conservation H to village center. It's right next door to me. And I will say the house that's on that property, I believe it was built in the 1800s. And I think you can understand why we wouldn't want to go from that into commercial. I feel zoning laws are in place to keep residential lots residential. When Mr. Johns bought the 0.29 acre lot zoned neighborhood conservation, he kept it for just a short time and now wants to rezone it to village center. That would be taking away my rights to enjoy my home and my property. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Richard, I'm actually the attorney for Mr. Johns, and he can speak to it if need be. Just to point out a few things, we believe it's already consistent with the comp plan as approved by this board, the VC request. Additionally, if you look at the definition for the VC zoning district, it's intended to preserve the unique mixed-use character of existing crossroads. This property speaks exactly to that. As you can see, on one side we've got SI, on the other side we've got VC. Then you've got the NC8 and NC8 to that. So it's clearly a crossroads that was intended to be looked at for a mixed-use type of development area. I'll also note the first individual who spoke to the board also owns the SI piece above the NC8, that purple section right above there. So I believe he owns both types of land use in that area. So if the board has any questions, the owner could speak to it, but I think it's consistent.
Thank you. Anyone else in the room?
I'll have to install a mic back there. So I had one question. We did have a lady that was in the room and she had to leave, so she submitted a written comment. Is that okay to read? I wasn't sure what the.
But we've already passed or is it coming up?
No, it's this one right here, but she had to leave early.
Yeah,
Okay,
please,
just
go
want to
ahead.
make sure. All right, we have 2 emails first. The first one comes from Joyce Moore. In regards to the request for rezoning of 201 Old Love Point Road, I am not an adjacent property owner. I live on Love Point Road, 2 houses up. I believe as a property owner, you have the right to do what you want on your property, as long as it doesn't harm anyone. I'm not sure what the NC8 Village Center zoning permits on the property. My concern is the traffic in the area. Through town is a 30-mile zone, and if you live here, you will know very few cars do the posted speed limit. They barely stop at the stop sign, right there at 201, coming from Cloverfield's community. As the area has grown, there are more and more accidents there and in front of Lowe's nursery. And if you need to go out when school's let out, there's even more traffic coming from that direction. I'm sure that all of this has been taken into consideration at the Planning and Zoning Department when reviewed upon a request. Thank you for your time. Our second email comes from Carol and John Finkinger. We are writing to express strong opposition to CR 44-201 Old Love Point Road, which would rezone property from NC to VC designation. We own and reside on the property located at 606 Love Point Road, about 6 lots down the street, a short walking distance, and in full view of the property in question. 201 Love Point Road, Old Love Point Road, has for many years been residential in nature, the site of a historic home and located adjacent to properties within Stevensville Historic District. In fact, a Maryland History Road sign designating the Historic District is located in the right-of-way alongside the property. The area is also part of the historic Stevensville Arts and Entertainment District. All the lots on our block facing Love Point Road are zoned to NC, including the several lots between our home and 201 Old Love Point Road. While there is certainly some commercial zoning near 201 Old Love Point Road, particularly Lowe's Nursery, it is important to recognize that the property both abuts and is adjacent to properties which, like the subject property, are residential in nature and have long been designated NC. As residents of NC zoning district, which would be affected, we do not support village center zoning for 201 Old Love Point Road. VC would potentially allow future uses such as convenience stores with gas pumps, liquor, auto sales, service, boat sales, restaurants, fast food, liquor stores, or retail. Such uses and the accompanying increases in traffic, noise, lights, and signatures and signage are neither desirable nor comparable with the surrounding NC district. In addition, we do not believe the highway infrastructure will support many VC uses at the crossroads with already limited visibility, tight turning radius, and no sidewalks to support pedestrians. We have witnessed and experienced many incidents and near-miss accidents at this intersection. Commercial development in the middle of this fork in the road could lead to more dangerous traffic, not only for the adults and the children living in our neighborhood, but also for drivers coming to and from Cloversfield, Old Love Point Park, and Kent Island High School. And then we have our one letter. And this came from Shannon Jacquet. Or Jacket. Sorry. I'm opposed to the rezoning of 201 Old Love Point Road to Village Commercial. I do not think it will benefit the community. I think the property should remain as a single-family dwelling. My parents live at 203 Old Love Point Road, and I own a rental property in Cloverfields. Changing the zoning at 201 Old Love Point Road would only increase the rental profits for their owner. If everyone on Old Love Point Road were to rezone to Village Commercial, we would lose the community residential feel. The property is close to the bike trail and park, which the community loves. We should protect the community feeling of Stevensville. Doubling occupancy will only cause more congestion in the area.
That should conclude, but is there anything, Mr. Johns?
Hello, my name is Jay Johns. I own the property, the said property. It's a unique piece of property. It's a triangle, as you can see. It's limited to what can be put on that property. It's very small, either a big commercial building or some type of duplex home. I own the property at, I think it's 202 Old Love, which is a suburban industrial property across the street from it with the commercial buildings, along with Mr. Schneider, who owns just a little bit north, just on the other side of my properties. And I've talked to some of the other folks, neighbors that have residential who are in favor, although they're not here to speak on that. So again, and then also what was concerned about another, someone who said they weren't for it, they were talking about gas stations and all that other stuff. That's just, the property won't, it's not big enough to do anything, nothing like that. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else before we move to the next? Yes. Actually, ma'am, you've already been up.
I was just going to add. Okay, I'm sorry.
If you have new and compelling, but if you're just going to say the same thing that you're opposed, then I'm going to ask you just to remain seated. All right, moving on.
All right, number 16, Ken
Ms.
Island.
Jones, yep, 16, Ken Island LLC.
Yep. So this request is multiple zoning districts currently. This parcel is zoned countryside. What they're requesting is this location here, as I follow the line, is it will be countryside to Stevensville Master Plan Development. This portion to the north would be to urban commercial, and then this area to the south would just can stay countryside. This property was subject to litigation previously, and what basically the result was that is that the county had to basically they had to develop that parcel as Stevensville Master Plan Development. So this has already been developed. There's Bay Cove is basically already developed there. Urban commercial area, this parcel has not been developed, but it has already has some substantial development on it. Also, there's the countryside, the countywide land use is established residential area, rural business employment area, and rural agricultural area. That's just the nature of the property because there's a commercial, residential, and also agricultural on the same lot there. And then also the detailed future land use is agricultural, commercial, and mixed use. And there's an extensive history if you're looking for the litigation history in your application, or if you have questions, you can answer.
All right, would anyone in the room like to comment on Ken Island LLC? Seeing none?
You liked this email so much earlier, I thought I'd read it again in the right spot. This comes from Paula Tartel, and she didn't specify which number, but we thought it fit here.
Okay.
I would like to submit a comment on the voting of rezoning the area of Route 8. This rezoning would cause huge traffic issues, which is already bad enough along Route 8. Our roads can't handle more houses, and that would probably have 2 or 3 cars apiece safely. There have been way too much building on Ken Island, and could all this building compromise our little island? Plus more houses, which will most likely be more children, which our school system cannot handle. Our kids are already in large class sizes. Imagine even larger classes, which will impact our children's ability to learn. Please consider to not rezone this area and protect what little land we have left. That's it to me today.
Excellent. Well done, Bruce. Thank you.
Oh.
All right, anyone else? Yes, sir.
Good morning. My name is Michael Dreisidel. I've been a Ken Island resident for almost 25 years. I live in Bay City, and the proposed rezoning is going to negatively impact a lot of people down Route 8 for several reasons. Number one, I live on Walman Way. I can hear sirens on a daily basis at that intersection right at Bay Cove due to accidents occurring, so there's no lights. It's a challenge with traffic, so I'm not sure if there's been a traffic study to support the rezoning, but that's something you may want to take a look at. Additionally, Route 8, with the additional development down Route 8 in Romacoke, proposed, if it hasn't been approved yet, 600 homes. If you try to get out of Bay City, which has approximately 740 homes on a weekday, it's a challenge getting out on Route 8. So by continuing to develop that area, it has a negative impact on not only Ken Island, but from folks coming and bringing children into schools right there on Route 8, but the majority of the residents from that area down to the end of Romacoke. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Ms. Jones, number 17, Dream Farm LLC. These are the growth, the last 4 here are the growth area before we'll discuss on voting and then revisit Mr. Baker's petition.
Yep. So what before you, during the comprehensive plan, the growth area was reduced in the location of the neighborhood village center zoning. The yellow line was the previous growth area, then the red line is the adopted growth area as it is now. Basically, since the growth area has changed, the zoning obviously needs to follow and be consistent with the growth area. And this is basically just a map of that growth area as it is now. We have numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4. So the first one is Dream Farm. There's what is about 15 acres here was zoned Neighborhood Village Center. Basically the first 300 feet of the property, which is about 3 acres, is to be rezoned Town Center, and then the rest of the parcel will be countryside as it is the remaining of the parcel itself. Basically the change in land use, which was adopted in the comp plan, is rural business employment area for the Town Center portion, and then rural agricultural areas for what would be the countryside located outside of the growth area. And then the detailed future land use is agricultural and open space, and then commercial and mixed use, which is where the TC would be zoned as well. The goal here was based on the aforementioned review, identify appropriate opportunities to rezone properties located within the growth areas in an effort not to further exacerbate inadequate public facilities, which you can recall from the comprehensive update of the sewer capacity.
You want to just do all?
Yep, we can do that.
As a block?
It is, contiguous. So the next would be a parcel that's owned by John, Claude, and Joanne Lowry. This is also adjacent to Route 18. The parcel is zoned Neighborhood Village Center. About 9.5 acres would be rezoned to Town Center, which is this area here. I know there's a lot of blue on this screen, but then this portion outside of the growth area would be rezoned to countryside. And it has about the same land use designations and comp plan findings as well. The next parcel, which is also owned by the previous owner, this portion here, which is along Route 8, would be rezoned to Town Center, and then the remainder here would be rezoned to countryside. And then the following parcel here, this existing here is neighborhood conservation, which would stay neighborhood conservation, but the remainder of the parcel, which is now zoned Neighborhood and Village Center, would be rezoned to countryside. I think that is, yep, all of them, except for Mr. Baker's, and we should.
Right, so was Gardner's Purchase number 20 in there?
Yep, that was it.
That was it?
Mhm.
That's
That
okay.
was that last inside
Yeah,
Yep,
got it.
sorry about that, I didn't mention the property
No,
owners.
I'm sorry, just lost track of my ticks. Would anyone in the room like to speak to any or all 4 of the growth area?
My name is Tracy Schultz from Chester, Maryland. I'm the owner of Dream Farm. I guess I've come to the comprehensive plan meetings trying to get some additional property added into the growth area. The Planning Commission was graceful enough to agree with being added in, to only be denied by the commissioners in the planning department. To my wildest dreams, I don't understand how a county can take away somebody's value and degrade it through downzoning of properties. It's almost like stealing. That's not a hearing today, but I just want to voice my feelings on that, because to take 16 acres of town center zoning in a growth area and leave you with 3 is a very big pill to swallow. If you own a piece of property, you want to water, and you plan on building a retirement home on it, and all of a sudden the county said you're not going to be allowed to do that, it just takes it away from you. That's the way it feels. There's a lot of value between the Gardner's Purchase, the Lowry property, and my property that was taken, I feel stolen, without compensation. There's nothing I can do now. The zoning has to match whatever is going to happen today, because the property has been changed in the comprehensive plan. So, but I'm against this whole mess that we're into, because it was a legal opinion, which everybody has opinions. I can go into that, but one legal opinion took millions of dollars of value from these property owners, and I just don't agree with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for any of these 4 growth areas in the room? You said you're finished, Bruce? All right. With the exception of Mr. Baker's, that concludes the public hearing. Well, Teddy, we're gonna
vote on this.
Yeah.
one.
Gonna vote first.
So that concludes the public hearing on the rezonings and the adjustments in the growth area.
Well, no, we still have the Baker one to do.
Yeah.
As a public hearing.
Okay, so can I just reopen another public hearing, or,
No, let's,
so we can vote within the public hearing? I don't have to, is that acceptable?
and you can get a sense of the body to see whether we're gonna have to pull some out.
Fair enough, thank you. So, again, sort of to see if we can pull some out, get the sense of the commission here, I'd like to propose that we discuss possibly voting on this as a slate. If not, please, if you have on these, minus Mr. Baker's petition, is there any sense in the room, the commissioners that is, and online, that we can vote as a slate? Let's just start with the supposition that we would all like to vote to slate as presented, meaning we're all in favor of passing all these proposals that Ms. Jones just outlined. And if anyone has any reservations of going that route on any specific topic, let's pull that aside and discuss that under a different voting protocol. Does that make sense?
I'm okay with voting on them as a slate.
Okay, as a slate, do you?
Okay.
Anyone online opposed to voting in the slate? Would you like to pull one out to discuss that as you would have an opposition?
Only for me, just, because I'm thick, to clarify, we just finished the comprehensive zoning. We just finished going through the entire planning process, and some of these individuals were before us during that process. Now, everybody's coming back to rediscuss the changes. And some of them, we looked at sewer capacity, we looked at water capacity, we looked at impact on the road system. What's changed in the last 3 months, 4 months, that's causing this to have to come back up for everybody being back at the table?
Mr. Ebersberger, the difference is that these were looked at in the context of updating on a comprehensive basis the comprehensive plan. An element of the comprehensive plan is the land use map. And the land use map took into consideration both existing zoning, existing patterns of development, and requests for rezoning, some of which went forward favorably and therefore changed the land use map, and others did not. So the land use map is not a zoning map. So this is to change the actual official zoning map to be consistent with the land use map in the comprehensive plan.
Okay.
And just to clarify, there's a 6-month window between the time of adoption of the plan and when the Planning Commission needs to take action on those very specific comprehensive rezoning requests and any changes to the growth area, so that we're reviewing those changes under the comprehensive rezoning statute, because there's a separate section of the code that looks at citizen-sponsored text amendments and mapping requests, and those are different standards altogether. So this process that is a part of comprehensive planning is a separate process and has to be looked at in the context of the comp plan and is not looked at as an individual request. So this is the one time every 10 years that the community has an opportunity to come in and make these requests. And this is the last step.
Did that help you, Art?
It does. Thank you.
Yes. Ms. Dobson, any questions from you?
No, I'm good. I'm right here. I'm good.
All right. So that being said, based on the sense that I'm perceiving from the commission, I will entertain a motion with all of the above discussed, with the exception of number 10, Mr. Baker's.
Want to go, you want me to?
Okay, so be it resolved that the Planning Commission makes a favorable recommendation to the Queen Anne's County Commissioners regarding comprehensive zoning requests as outlined in Attachment A, with the exception of number 10, R.B. Baker. All of the aforementioned CRR are found to be consistent with the 2022 Queen Anne's County Comprehensive Plan, specifically the goals and strategies, and map 4-9 countywide plan land use, and map 4-10 detailed future land use.
Have a motion, have a second.
Second.
A motion, have a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
That sounds unanimous. Motion carries. We would now ask Mr. Baker to recuse himself so we can discuss his application, number 10. Stephanie, do you have a presentation on that?
Yep, got it. Right, so number 10, the application before you is R.B. Baker and Sons. It's located along Cherry Lane and 301. The applicant is requesting the property to be changed from agriculture to suburban commercial. In the countywide land use map, it's mapped as rural business employment area, and the detailed future land use is commercial and mixed use. If you remember back to your land use discussion, this is the one you basically asked the Queenstown if they were in favor. It's in their growth area, and that's why you went along with the change with the land use map.
And that's currently that kennel that's there on that
Yes.
property, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Actually, my dog is there today.
Is there any testimony on the dog you'd like to proctor? All right. Anyone in the room like to comment on the Baker and Sons proposed as presented? Bruce, nothing online. All right. And, okay, that being said, I will entertain a motion from the floor.
May it be resolved that the Planning Commission makes a favorable recommendation to the Queen Anne's County Commissioners regarding comprehensive rezoning request number 32, R.B. Baker and Sons, Inc., as outlined in Attachment A. CRR 32 is found to be consistent with the 2022 Queen Anne's County Comprehensive Plan, specifically the goals and strategies in map 4-9 countywide plan use map, and map 4-10 detailed future land use.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's 2 seconds. Let you wrestle that one out. I'll let Sharon figure out who came first. Any further discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? No opposition. All right. I will therefore close public comment on the rezoning and adjusted growth area allocations. I gratefully appreciate all the time and effort and public comment that the general public has either submitted or provided orally. Let me follow along so I don't lose my place. Do we have any other generic public comments for anything outside of today's discussions that you'd like to sit and say? Any other updates from staff, council? No. Teddy, welcome back. Sorry, didn't mean to leave you hanging out there. All right, that being said, with nothing good of the order, I would expect the next...
Motion to adjourn.
Can you say that fast?
Commissioner Eversberger.
I'm still going to give
I'm
you
betting
the
Sharon's ready for a second.
I'm second.
Fair enough, so moved. Thank you all.